What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and trained by the Sage of Six Paths himself? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. WWWHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHCame the shocked cry of a certain blonde ninja that could be heard throughout the destroyed battlefield. You heard me correctly, Naruto Uzumaki. When you sealed away my mother's will, which you called Black Zetsu, it used the last of its power to place a timed world travel seal on you. What this seal does, it banishes the person who has it into another dimension for one use. However, the banished can never return to their home world ever again for as long as they live. Hagoromo Otsukutui. The Sage of the Six Paths explained to Naruto, who looked utterly devastated at the news. But can't you do anything about it? You're the guy that sealed the 10 tails into the moon in the first place. Sakura Haruno, Naruto's teammate and longtime friend, snapped at the sage, who sighed in sadness. I can remove seals, Miss Haruno, but removing seals by my own clan is far beyond my power. There's nothing I can do, Hagoromo stated, tears threatening to drop from his Rinnegan eyes. He may not have known the incarnation of Asura for very long, but he had to admit he had grown very attached to the boy. Old man, came the voice of Kurorama, the nine-tailed fox and the reason why Naruto's childhood wasn't so great. If it's no problem, can I accompany him? This earned gasps of surprise from the other tailed beasts at the thought of one of their friends actually wanted to be resealed. Well, I'll expect Geiki, the eight-tailed octopus. Don't tell me you want to go back to that irritating host of yours, Geiki? Son Goku asked him, who nodded in reply. Somebody has keep that rapper in check. It might as well be me and the human that calls himself his brother, Yuki replied, sighing slightly as he knew what he was getting himself into. I hate to change the topic, but are you coming back inside of me, fuzzball? Naruto asked his longtime companion, who growled at the nickname, but was smiling a big toothy smile. Damn right I am, Brad. You need at least one reminder from this world, and it should be your bestest buddy in whole wide world, Kuruma replied before turning to his father-like figure. Do it, old man, the fox said as he got ready. So be it, Kuruma. It has been a delight knowing you, Hagoromo said as he did the necessary hand seals and the 9 tails was enveloped in a blue glow. It then suddenly flew towards Naruto and merged into his body. The blonde felt an increase in his chakra, meaning that the sealing was done. Yuki also started glowing as he flew inside the cocoon that contained Killer Bee. Naruto Uzumaki. You have exactly 4 minutes before the seal activates and you shall depart to your new world. If you want to share some goodbyes with your friends, now would be the time to do so, Hagoromo said solemnly as Naruto nodded and walked towards Sakura, who was shedding tears. Well, Naruto, I guess this is goodbye. I'll admit it, I may have been mean to you at times. But I don't want you to go like this, the pink-haired girl said sadly, causing Naruto to mentally curse Black Zetsu. Yeah, and you didn't once want to go on a date with me. Naruto replied, looking down to hide his tears. You were so close. You wanted to become Hokage, but in the end, you won't be able to. It just isn't fair. Sakura wept slightly, pulling Naruto into a bone-crushing hug that caused all his air to leave his lungs. Sakura, you're killing me. Naruto wheezed, causing the girl to realize and let go, letting the boy take big breaths of air. Sorry, Naruto. Now stop wasting time and say goodbye to Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke. Sakura commanded with a smile as the blonde nodded and walked his teacher, who was shedding tears as well. Naruto. I'm sorry, Kakashi said, bowing his head much to Naruto's confusion. Sorry for what? Sorry for the time you didn't get me ramen? Naruto replied, trying to remember what Kakashi had done to wrong him so much. No, idiot. I meant for hardly teaching you anything. I taught you teamwork and tree climbing and that was about it. Please forgive me, the Jonin said as he remembered him teaching Naruto after Sasuke had left. Hey, don't worry about it, Kakashi-sensei. What's done is done. Look where I am now. I am the most powerful ninja in the entire world. Even if I didn't need your help most of the time, I still got famous. Naruto replied cheerfully, much to the man's delight. Minato-sensei, I hope you're watching this, he thought before focusing back to Naruto. Hey, thanks Naruto. Just try not to get yourself into trouble in your new home, Kakashi teased, ruffling Naruto's hair like he was his son. Trouble always seems to find me, but we'll see about that. Naruto said before walking to the final member of Team 7, Sasuke Uchiha. As the incarnation of Asura approached the incarnation of Indra, he was wrapped in a hug by none other than Sasuke himself. I made some pretty stupid mistakes in my life. What do you say we put our rivalry aside and end this illusion? Sasuke said as he pulled from the hug with a genuine smile on his face. Right, Naruto said with a massive fox-like grin, and he put his hand in the ram sign. But first things first, Sasuke said, readying what appeared to be purple chakra and throwing it towards two certain mummified humans, turning them to dust. Everyone looked confused until Sasuke turned with a smile. I killed Orochimaru and Kabuto. Anyone who has the curse mark will find it gone, so they won't be revived again. Consider this my redemption and the fact I didn't like that guy in the first place, Sasuke said, as he knew as long as those two would continue to live, there would be death and chaos wherever they went. And Sasuke owed Naruto for making him see the error of his ways. Sasuke. Thank you, Naruto said gladly, to which his former rival, now friend, nodded. Anytime, Naruto. Now help me put an end to the infinite Tsukuyomi before you leave, Sasuke said, gesturing at Naruto to look at his body. Much to his surprise, it had started glowing yellow. Alright, let's do this, Naruto replied, putting one of his hands in the ram sign as Sasuke put his hand over Naruto's. Release. They both shouted, and the kukins that held the trapped people from the ultimate genjutsu fell to the ground, and people woke up wondering what the heck just happened since they were trapped. Naruto Uzumaki, you do not have much time in this world left. So permit me to give you one last gift, Hagoromo spoke up, catching everyone's attention as well as completely ruining the happy mood. Sure thing, old man. 6. What is it? Naruto asked, and everyone from Team 7 and the tailed beasts could have sworn that they saw the sage's eyes twitch for a second, but they wouldn't be able to confirm it until the day they expired. I shall heal your injuries and restore your chakra before you depart. Be aware that because you'll be the only one with jutsu, you may become a target for some people. So try to stay out of trouble, Hagoromo said as he raised his hand and Naruto started glowing yellow. Hey, I try, old man, but trouble always seems to find me. But I always beat it back before it gets me. Heck, after everything I've been through, I don't think anything can put me down. Naruto bragged arrogantly as the glow faded and the restored Jinchuriki felt refreshed as he was before the war started. Well, whatever the case, Naruto Uzumaki, it appears your time in this world is coming to a close with only 15 seconds left. It has been an absolute honor knowing you, my boy, and good luck on the other side. Hagoromo bid some parting words before vanishing back to wherever he came from. The tailed beasts also ran away to the wild where they would reside until they would be sealed again. I swear, guys, I will become famous and make you proud. Naruto yelled before his body flashed bright white and he was gone. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke all shed a few tears and thought the same thing. Goodbye, Naruto. Hero of the world, they would never forget their comrade for the rest of their lives until they died of natural causes. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze would forever be an inspiration to the ninja world as the one who brought peace to the hidden villages. Whoa! Naruto yelled in total surprise as he suddenly found himself in an unfamiliar forest. Well, that's just great. I just got here and I'm already stuck in the middle of nowhere. Getting out of here's going to be a real pain. Naruto complained out loud at his misfortune of being surrounded by trees and no buildings in sight. In his rage, he made a Rasengan to blow some steam on a tree. Boom! There was a big circle-shaped hole in the tree now. Bonk! A loose tree branch snapped of the tree and hit Naruto fair and square on the noggin, knocking him unconscious. A few minutes later, a group of strangers found him and picked him up so that they could take him to their fort so that their healers could fix him up. Half an hour later. Ugh! Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes to see that he was inside. Ah, you're awake. I must say, when we found you just lying there, I thought you were dead. Then again, Lord Karin and Lady Hinoka ordered me to heal you, so I couldn't refuse. A cheerful male voice spoke up as Naruto turned his head to see a man with closed eyes, brown hair, and a smile on his face. Wait, how did I get here? Naruto asked the man. Rather than getting an answer from him, he got from a young girl with pink hair. We found you collapsed under a tree branch. I'm surprised your injuries weren't any worse. The girl explained with a slight stutter at the start of her sentence. Oh, that was me being angry, Naruto said, causing the man to laugh. Ah, you must have been angry over your fashion sense. I'm not surprised, because to be quite frank, all that orange makes you look like a total idiot. The man laughed until Naruto stood up angrily after catching on what he just said. Oh yeah? That's rich coming from the guy who looks like he's asleep standing up. Naruto tried to counter the man's insult. I assure you, you brightly whiskered colored mess, I am perfectly awake. My eyes are just squinting because you're dressed too brightly, the man said, although that was a lie. There was a very good reason his eyes are always closed, but that's a story for another time. Izama. The girl spoke up shyly from her spot in the corner. I think you should stop making fun of our guest and get Karin to come and greet him, she said quietly but sternly. Ah yes, our lord must want to know that our friend has awoken from his pain-caused slumber. The man turned to Naruto with a mock bow. I am called Izama, he introduced himself. In the event that you fail at life, I shall take responsibility to heal you. Not that it will matter, death comes for us all and life is pointless and meaningless, Izama said with a smile before leaving the room. Naruto sat up and turned to look at Sakura. Is he always like this? Naruto asked her, who nodded slowly. Izama is a bit of a jerk at times, but he's one of our best healers. Well, one of our only healers aside from me and Felicia, Sakura replied as Naruto looked confused. Who the heck is Felicia? He asked dumbly as he didn't notice footsteps behind him. That would be my ma. Whoa. Thud. Naruto looked at the entrance to see a pink-haired woman wearing a maid's garment on the ground looking ready to cry. Standing next to her was a young man wearing silver armor and was wearing no shoes. Are you alright, Felicia? The young boy asked in shock as he helped the now identified Felicia back to her feet. I'm fine, my lord. I just tripped. Again, Felicia said, ashamed of herself for looking bad in front her master and guest. The boy suddenly turned his attention to Naruto. His blood-red eyes gazing into Naruto's ocean blue ones. I'm so sorry about Felicia. I hope you can find it to forgive her, the boy said as Felicia looked down at her feet. Naruto on the other hand just grinned. What's done is done. I'm just mad at myself for knocking myself out back at the tree. Naruto exclaimed, smiling at Felicia, who brightened up in return. The boy just smiled in amusement, wondering how he could have done that. After all, there was a circle-sized hole in the tree where he found Naruto and a bunch of shurikens and unfamiliar knives in his pockets. The boy suddenly got serious as he asked the question he had meant to ask since he entered the room. Listen, whenever I look at you, I can't help but feel as if you weren't meant to be here. Who are you anyway? The man asked, causing Naruto to get a fox-like grin. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. Who are you? Naruto introduced with a thumbs up before looking confused as he didn't even know this guy. I'm Prince Karin of Hoshido, the now named Karin said, expecting Naruto to apologize for his rash behavior. He got something completely different instead. What the heck is Hoshido? And where am I anyway? Naruto sighed for what seemed to be the 10th time that day as he reminisced about what he had learned earlier that day. He had found out that Hoshido was the country he was in and they were at war with another kingdom called Nor, which had killed Karin's mother and had led to the prince siding with his birth family. Unfortunately, his so-called adoptive family hadn't taken it very kindly, especially Karin's eldest brother from Nor, who branded him a traitor and ordered him and anyone siding with him to be killed. Naruto was shocked at how cold-hearted his Norian brother had been, and because he had nowhere else to go, he decided to join Karin's little militia to stop the ruler of Nor, King Garan, and bring peace to both kingdoms. Right now, the Jinchuriki was sitting under a tree wondering how all his friends were doing. He could only hope that they were living good lives and that a fifth war would never happen. I don't trust you. The suddenness of the sentence shocked Naruto out of his train of thought as he looked up to see a man wearing what seemed to be ninja gear standing above him. The man also had fiery red hair, a slash mark on his right eye, and a mask covering his mouth. The mouth mask and slashed eye remained Naruto of Kakashi in a way. What have I done to get under your skin? I only just got here. Who are you anyway? Naruto retorted, making the ninja scowl at his rash attitude. I am Saizo V, retainer to Lord Ryoma. You appeared to knock yourself out when Lord Karin found you, but I say different. You could be a spy for Nor who dropped the branch on himself to get our lord's trust, the now named Saizo explained, pointing out his reasons for not trusting Naruto. Hey, what makes you think I'm a spy for Nor? Naruto snapped angrily at Saizo's accusation. He stood up and glared at Saizo, who wasn't fazed one bit at the blonde's hostility. The fact that your clothes are not from Hoshido. And I've never seen any headband with that mark on it, Saizo said, his hand reaching into his pocket to grab something, most likely a shuriken or some other sharp object. Whoa whoa whoa, I'm not a spy from Nor. This headband shows that I'm a ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village. And I like these clothes. Naruto countered angrily, causing Saizo to stop reaching for his pocket. Hey, Saizo chuckled, his eyes softening up a little. You're a ninja in all that orange? I would compare your fashion to a jumpsuit that screams, kill me. Not to mention your attitude does not suit that of a normal ninja. Saizo's eyes hardened a little, making Naruto shiver. Yeah well. Do they have any ninjas in Nor? Naruto asked, trying to change the subject, which Saizo caught on to, but he did raise a good point. The only ninjas in Nor are ones that turned traitor on Hoshido. Yes, but only ones that have abandoned us for Nor, Saizo said with hatred, as he remembered some ninjas from the royal army running towards Nor during a battle. One of the princes was furious and declared them traitors, to be killed on sight. That sounds like my village. If someone abandons the leaf, they are marked a traitor and get a bounty on them. One of my friends was one, Naruto said, thinking of how Hoshido was like the leaf in a way. I see, Saizo grunted uncaringly. Listen, you seem like an okay person, but if I find out you're a spy for Nor, I'll be the first to take action, he warned Naruto. The blonde frowned before he figured out why Saizo was so hostile towards him. Oh, I get, it's because I appeared out of nowhere that you think I'm a bandit, Naruto told Saizo, whose face softened up to the point where it was neutral. Yes, exactly that, Saizo said, sighing a little. Look, I'm sorry for being harsh to you. It's just that we're in a war right now and trust is very limited. Seeing as you don't look Hoshidian or Norian, I thought you were a thief or assassin working for some scum. I trust you understand? Saizo apologized for his words earlier as his face truly softened. Don't worry about it. Although with your attitude and state of mind, you are a bit of a guy who takes his job way too seriously. Naruto replied, accepting the ninja's apology while stating his opinion of him. Much to his surprise, Saizo let out the briefest of chuckles. Hey, I'm a servant to the royal family and the fifth of my clan. It's my job to be serious, kid, Saizo said, bluntly stating the truth. That is all I have to say to you for now. Goodbye, and just like that, the ninja disappeared. Bah, he's got nothing on that leaf whirlwind thing that Kakashi-sensei uses. Naruto thought, walking away from the tree to have a stroll around the fort he was in. Well, Karin liked to call it a fort anyway, and everyone else did, so the blonde also decided to go along with it. All of a sudden, a thought struck the Jinchuriki. So what now? Do I just start a new life here? Just abandon my goal of becoming famous and just settle down, he thought, as becoming Hokage was the reason he strived to save his world from the likes of Kagaya, Madara, and Obito, who had redeemed himself in the end. But now he can never go back, and the thought of building or getting a new house to spend the rest of his days in seemed very tempting. You also need to get a girl, an oh-so-familiar voice rumbled in his head, stopping the blonde in his tracks as he started to have a chat with Kurama. What do you mean, Fox? And since when could you talk to me without me visiting you first? Naruto asked the fox, who was still behind bars in the blonde's mind. 1. The old man made a slight tweak to the seal so that we can talk without you needing to enter your mind to visit me. Naruto silently thanked Hagoromo for that. And 2. You have never thought about being someone's boyfriend aside from Sakura before in your life. I'm sure Hinata would have loved that, Kurama said sarcastically, hoping that Naruto would get his hint that the Hyuga had a crush on him. His hopes were crushed in 5 seconds flat. What are you getting at, Kurama? Are you saying that Hinata has a boyfriend? If she does, then I'm happy for her. Naruto responded before a sudden burst of pain that was as strong as one of Sakura's punches erupted in his head. What was that for? The blonde snapped at the fox while clutching his head. She loved you, you idiot. Are you seriously that dense? Kurama thundered, causing Naruto to release his hands from his head and adopt a look of shock. She did? And just how do you know that, fuzzball? I mean, she was a friend, but was she actually in love with me this whole time? Naruto asked Kurama, who just snorted in disgust. You really are a dense idiot, are you? Kurama mocked Naruto as he looked angrily at the Nine-Tails taunt. How could you not tell from the way she stutters and blushes when you're around? She's had a crush on you since you first met her at the academy. Yet you always focused on that Sakura girl instead of her, Kurama explained, Naruto's jaw dropping open at the realization. I'm an idiot. How the hell haven't I noticed it all this time? Naruto complained out loud, forgetting that Kurama was only in his head. Haven't noticed what? A new voice inquired. The owner was a small red-headed boy, wearing a blue shirt and black pants and sandals. I only just realized that a girl loved me, yet I've been oblivious all this time. Naruto told the boy slightly mournfully. The boy frowned. I see. Regretfully, I know nothing about love so I can't really help you there, the boy replied. It's not like you'd understand, kid. I've known her for my entire life and I only realized just now. Naruto said. The boy just nodded thoughtfully and was about to walk off before he realized what Naruto called him. I'm not a child. I'm a grown man. The boy snapped, causing Naruto to look at him skeptically. Are you sure? You don't look like one, kid. If you're just saying that to seem big, then cool, Naruto said, causing the boy to turn slightly red with anger. I am an adult. I'm just really short. The boy retorted back. Naruto really didn't want a fight, so he decided to drop it at that. You know what? I really don't want trouble, so I'll say it. You're a man. What's your name? Naruto asked the boy, who smiled a little. I'm Hayato of the Wind Tribe. And you are? The now named Hayato raised his hand for Naruto to shake. Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you, Hayato. Naruto introduced himself rather cheerfully, shaking Hayato's hand. Likewise, Hayato said, nodding. Now if you excuse me, I need to practice my magic. Good day. The redhead left to a training field and Naruto went his own separate way. The blonde wasn't sure what to do next until he caught sight of Izama from earlier, leaving a building carrying a plate of soup. Is that where the food's kept? I am rather hungry. Surely everyone here wouldn't mind if I got a snack, would they? Naruto thought hungrily, walking towards the building. When he got inside, he saw a large room of neat tables and empty chairs. There was also a red-haired man behind what seemed to be a counter. What is it with everyone here having red hair? Naruto thought, recalling that the last two people he met had red hair. He thought it was a popular thing in Hoshido and decided to leave it at that, as all he cared about was food. Hey, can I have some ramen? Naruto asked the man behind the counter as he looked up. Sorry, while we do have the necessary ingredients to make ramen, it takes a couple of days to fully produce, the man behind the counter said. Besides, we're due to leave soon to Izumo, so starting it right here and now would be a waste of time, he added, much to the blonde's annoyance. Fine. Just have some ramen ready when you get back, Naruto told the man, who smirked. Unfortunately for you, I'm not going to be on cooking duty when we get back. You're going to have to take it up with whoever's on cooking duty and pray that it's not Setsuna or Lady Hinoka, the man said with a shudder. And why shouldn't it be them? They're not that bad at cooking, are they? Naruto asked as the man, as a look of realization dawned on his face. Ah yes, you're the newcomer. Lord Karin did say we had somebody new in our ranks. I suppose it's inevitable that we met at some point, the man stated, and explained that Karin had told everyone about Naruto joining while he was under the tree. But back to my original topic, Lady Hinoka and Setsuna, one of her retainers, are good people. They just have poor cooking abilities. If you see them behind this counter, just grab some rice from the paddy outside and make your own meal, the man said, sighing, as he recalled an incident in the royal family where someone threw out their meal cooked by Lady Hinoka when she was younger and grabbed some rice straight from the royal gardens, boiled it, and had it for dinner. Right, Naruto muttered, taking all this information in before realizing something. By the way, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And who are you? The man smiled and the blonde could have sworn he saw a flash in his teeth. I am known as Tsubaki. One of Lady Sakura's retainers at your service. Tsubaki introduced himself with a bow as the name Sakura clicked inside Naruto's head. Sakura? As in the pink-haired girl who healed me earlier? Naruto said absent-mindedly as he remembered her. But the blonde said that out loud so Tsubaki heard him. Oh, so you have met my lady, have you? I'll have you know that without my perfection, she wouldn't be here right now. Tsubaki boasted proudly, causing Naruto to frown at the sudden declaration. Oh yeah? And just what have you done for her if she is here? Naruto said, feeling the urge to break this guy's perfect record somehow. Why, I'm glad you asked, my boy. Tsubaki said, patting Naruto on the back with such strength, it made him fall over as the retainer began his story. It all began 2 years ago, in a small village somewhere in Hoshido. I don't remember where exactly, but that's not relevant to this story. Anyway, Lady Sakura, my fellow retainer Hana, and myself stopped for a bite to eat before resuming our journey, which I shall not delve too deeply into. There we were, enjoying some fish with peach sauce, when all of a sudden, bandits attacked. One of them made a move for Lady Sakura, daring to lay his filthy hands on her. But not to worry, I flawlessly grabbed my naginata, and he regretted the day he ever tried to harm my lady. That achievement was added to my perfect record, something that I take with pride and joy. I trust you found that interesting. Tsubaki rambled on only to find that Naruto was gone. Ah, he's gone. Tsubaki sighed, resting his arms on the counter. He looked up to see Sakura approach him. Almost instantly, he was in front of the girl, bowing. Lady Sakura, what can I do for you on this fabulous day? Tsubaki said, waiting for an order. If his lady orders something, then he shall get it done perfectly. No matter what the cost. I don't want anything, Tsubaki. I just wanted to tell you that we're about to leave for Izumo. Sakura told him and abruptly left through the door she came in. We're leaving already? Time sure flies when you're having a good talkie. Tsubaki said to nobody, as he locked the mess hall up and left to join the others. Naruto literally felt awed at the sight in front of him. As sunset descended, the giant palace was shaded in a soft light reflected by the sun. 4 massive trees also surrounded the palace, making them look like they were guarding the huge building. Here we are, the kingdom of Izumo, a blue-haired girl standing next to Karin said, as the boy marveled at the sight before him. It's so beautiful, I had no idea, Karin said to himself, lost in his thoughts. Indeed, some call this place the kingdom of the gods, the girl said with a slight smile as she breathed in the tranquility. And why's that? Naruto asked. Because while other kingdoms are at war, Izumo is and always will be neutral. Even in times like these, the girl explained, turning to Naruto. What, don't they have any guards or soldiers to fight? Naruto inquired, as the girl closed her eyes in thought. No, they do have some soldiers in case the worst happens, but aside from that, no one actually knows the reason why they are neutral, the blue-haired girl said, but paused as someone ran up to the group. Those from Hoshido recognized him as a diviner. But for some, like Naruto and a black armored knight, they had no idea what he was wearing. Naruto assumed it was a style in this country. Halt, who are you and what business do you have in Izumo? The person demanded as his hand reached for something in his pocket. Karin saw this and was quick to respond. Peace, we are travelers from Hoshido, seeking information about 2 friends of ours who have gone missing. Will you grant us access to your territory? Karin replied, and the guard softened up considerably when he saw the blue-haired girl. Ah, please forgive me, Lady Azura. I thought you were bandits here to terrorize our beloved country. All visitors from Hoshido are welcome here in Izumo. Come with me to the palace and our Archduke will see you, the Azumite said, bowing low, before turning to leave to the palace with the group following him. They traveled in relative silence, the only sources of speech being the pointed looks from citizens of Izumo or some people like Hayato and Tsubaki chatting among their fellow comrades. Excuse me, but have you seen Lord Takumi and Lord Ryoma anywhere? We believe that they were involved in a battle near here, Karin asked the Azumite leading them, who laughed in response. A battle? Near here? No, I don't think so, the Azumite said with a half-hearted laugh. Are you sure? Cause you might want to recheck just in case, Naruto told the man, who turned to look at the blonde. Kid, Izumo's been a neutral country for generations. There's just no way a battle could have been staged here, the Azumite said as they neared the palace. He's lying. Kurama's voice spoke in head as he was about to enter his mindscape before he was pushed out. Hey, what was that for fuzzball? Naruto growled as his head rang from the slight pain from being forced out of his mind. Don't you remember what happened a couple of hours earlier? Kurama groaned, knowing how clueless Naruto could be sometimes. You were in a bad mood? Naruto replied, making the fox slam his hand on the ground of his cage, resulting in a stronger headache for Naruto. You idiot, you can talk to me without having to enter your mind. Gods, you can be so foolish sometimes, Kurama yelled, Naruto wincing from some stabbing pain at the massive voice booming in full volume right in his head. Okay, you didn't have to shout. And what's this you say about fancy pants? They're lying? Naruto asked. He entered the palace as the Azumite leading them talked to another Azumite standing on guard, and both left to another room together, most likely to fetch the Archduke. Did you see how he tensed up when you asked him? He knows something all right. This Archduke that he talks about may not be so peaceful as he seems, Kurama explained, causing Naruto to frown at the realization. Are you there? An unfamiliar voice asked, as Naruto saw a red-haired girl standing in front of him with a curious expression. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm just thinking, Naruto replied back, without revealing his fox friend. Thinking about what? You've been in a daze for the past couple of minutes. What could have made you think so hard? The girl said, making Naruto mentally curse himself for forgetting that talking to Kurama made him stand around like a fool. He wasn't sure how these people would react to the fox, so he decided to keep him a secret. For now. About ramen, there wasn't any at the fort, so I was thinking which flavors to get once we're done here. Naruto came up with the first thing he could think of, which technically wasn't a lie. He was hungry and he hadn't had any ramen since the 4th Shinobi War began. Hey, sure, I'm Hinoka, first princess of Hoshido and Karin's big sister, the now named Hinoka said, accepting Naruto's statement gracefully and extending her hand. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you, Hinoka. Naruto said, cheerfully shaking Hinoka's hand with a grin as the princess raised an eyebrow. Huh, you're the first person aside from my siblings to not address me as Lady Hinoka. You're certainly not like most other people I've known, Hinoka said with a light smile at Naruto's brashness. Yeah, I get that a lot, cause I'm not like most other people. I'm a ninja of my village and someone who saved it as well from being destroyed. Naruto declared proudly. Let me rephrase myself. You're not like most other ninja in the history of forever. Where are you from anyway? Hinoka asked. Naruto thought about how to answer. Konoha, or the Hidden Leaf Village as it was called by most people, was in another world and he seriously doubted that anyone here would believe him. So he decided to keep that a secret as well. From a village very far away. It's called the Hidden Leaf Village because the outskirts are literally forests galore. Naruto said without actually telling the truth, which seemed to satisfy Hinoka and everyone else who happened to be listening in. One of who happened to be the girl called Azura, who was looking at Naruto with great interest. Hidden Leaf Village? I've never heard of such a place before. Then again, I've never seen anyone like him before. I'll have to ask him about it later, Azura thought, as a door opened nearby and a middle-aged man stepped through. The man was wearing white robes, purple pants, had a mark on his forehead, and had closed eyes. He seemed quite peaceful, until Kurama started growling. Naruto, that's not who he seems to be. I detect an illusion from that guy, he's a fake, the fox said, as his enchanted sensing abilities saw through the disguise easily. Well great, what should I do then? Naruto asked with curiosity as Karin greeted the Archduke, who remained passive. Pretend he's real. When the time comes, expose him and see him, Kurama advised, then abruptly cut the communication to watch the Archduke closely, who had opened his eyes and grew a goofy grin on his face. Hey there people, nice to meet ya, can I get you anything? Anything fuzzy, bubbly, wibbly or wobbly? Hee hee hee. The Archduke bellowed enthusiastically, which oddly didn't fit his appearance at all. Whoa, he's different, Naruto said, voicing everyone's thoughts as they only could just nod in agreement. How rude of me, I didn't even introduce myself. The Archduke said, hitting his head playfully with his knuckles. I am Izana. Yes, the Izana, Archduke of Izumo and voted best hair 5 years running in the entire kingdom. Izana introduced himself with a bow so low, his head touched the floor. I must say it's been a while since we had visitors from Hoshido. Tell you what, cause you folks look like you have been through a lot. What's you say we put on some of my finest slippers and relax? Izana rambled happily before bursting into another fit of laughter. Excuse me Archduke, Azura spoke up and Izana managed to stop laughing to listen to her. Have you heard of a battle between Hoshido and Nor taking place around here? Izana's smile quickly vanished at the mention of the battle. A battle? Near here? Ha, not likely. And believe me, if there was, I'd be the first to know cause I'm the Archduke. Izana replied cheerfully despite his grim face. Are you sure? Maybe we're in the wrong place? Karin suggested. No way Pally, you're in Izana's house alright. But now that you mention a battle, I see that some of you are injured. Perhaps my healers will tend to your needs while the royals get some chill time with me. Izana perked up, his smile returning as the royals considered it. That would be nice, especially since we don't get a break very often. Sakura spoke up timidly, causing Izana to turn his focus to her. Ooh, you look pretty frazzled with your brother, little lady. How about I take you to a room that can soothe your mind as well as your body? Izana offered. Alright, lead the way, Karin said as Izana beamed the biggest grin yet, and he left giddily with Karin and Sakura in tow. Naruto muttered, as he knew the fake Izana would probably kill them if they went alone. And because Izumo was neutral, they couldn't brandish any weapons. So Naruto did the only logical thing he could. Hey, can I join them, Mr. Archduke guy? Naruto blurted out. Izana whirled right around with a smile. Why, of course, my friend. The more the merrier. And, Mr. Archduke guy, sounds really cool. You get a gold star. Izana said as he put a hand on Naruto's back and led him with Karin and Sakura to an empty dark room with lots of sharp devices. Like guillotines and axes. Archduke? What's with the sharp stuff? Sakura asked nervously, shuddering at the implements of pain. Why, this little lady is our relaxation room. Also known as our execution chamber. Izana cackled. All of a sudden, armed men on horses and some on foot with weird books appeared out of nowhere and stood behind Izana. Okay buddy. The gig's over, so why you don't drop the disguise and show yourself? Naruto yelled at Izana, shocking both Karin and Sakura even more. The fake Izana looked horrified. How did you see through my disguise? It was perfect. Nobody could tell I was posing as that creep of an archduke. The fake Izana uncharacteristically shouted, before vanishing in a puff of smoke and revealing the faker's true form. A man wearing an outfit similar to the men behind him, except he wore what seemed to be a jester's hat instead of a yellow helmet. Well, it doesn't matter. I, Zola, Dark Mage of Nor, will be the ones to kill you Hoshiden scum and traitor. Get them, men. The now revealed Zola shouted to his soldiers, only to see Hinoka, Azura, and a green-haired ninja put down his forces effortlessly. It was a good thing you acted on your instincts, Lady Hinoka. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened to Lord Karin and Lady Sakura. Oh, and the newcomer to our group, the ninja said with a tiny smile on his face. Agreed, but we can talk later. Zola's escaping, Hinoka said as the dark mage ran down the halls, as more men working for him appeared. It looks like we have a fight on our hands. Azura, go tell the others. Karin ordered, and the girl nodded and took off down the hallway where everyone else was waiting for Karin, Sakura, and Naruto to come back. Yeah, and break this place's rule about not fighting, Naruto added. I'm sure the real Izana wouldn't mind just this once. Now come and help us, Naruto. Karin yelled as he charged into the fray, his sword clashing with a horseman's lance. Naruto groaned as he hoped he wouldn't have to explain his jutsu to these people so soon. He sighed and focused on forming that one jutsu that his father made. Out of all his jutsu, this was the one he really didn't want to explain so early. He sighed again and charged into the battle. Rasengan, Naruto shouted with a battle cry, as he sent the ball of chakra crashing into a soldier on horseback, sending him flying into a wall and making a giant hole. The blonde shinobi smirked as he proceeded to engage another soldier holding a book, which actually shot fireballs much to his slight surprise. It must be a thing from this world. Books that can shoot fireballs. That's new, Naruto thought as he dodged the fireball and slammed another Rasengan into the dark mage, sending him into unconsciousness. Naruto then promptly turned around to see if anyone saw him perform the technique. He grimaced when he saw Karin looking directly at him. Everyone else was looking at the blonde with mild curiosity as well. I'll explain later. Do you have any shuriken on you? Naruto said quickly as Kase tossed him some spares which he had been fortunately carrying with him. That would be nice. I'm sure we're all curious as to what sort of magic you just used, the prince replied with a soft smile. Naruto mentally sighed as he didn't question it. Yeah, sure, if I actually remember, the Jinchuriki mumbled quietly as he started throwing shuriken at a soldier with a bow, whose shoulder was imperceptibly scraped before retaliating with an attack of his own. However, Naruto saw this coming and easily dodged it, and before the outlaw could realize what was going on, his opponent had rushed up right in his face, and gave him a mighty blow to his stomach which sent him to the ground for the majority of the fight. Hayato muttered as he too was curious as to what Naruto just did. He, along with everyone else, had never seen an ability like that before, so he decided to watch Naruto to see what other magic tricks he had up his sleeve. "Hey, watch it, kid!" Naruto shouted at him, throwing his shuriken over the diviner's head and staggering an armored soldier who had the bright idea of sneaking up behind Hayato. All he got was a spirit of what seemed to be an ox, which killed him in one hit. "You have my thanks," he said to Naruto, who was busy fighting two soldiers on horseback at the same time. Naruto threw some shuriken at one of the horses, scaring it and making it gallop away with a terrified whinny, knocking the soldier clean off. "Behind you, brat," Kurama mumbled as Naruto ducked, just in time to avoid getting his head amputated. He countered the blow with a rapid dodge and another Rasengan. The attack may have been weak due to not having much charge time, but it was enough to disarm and knock out the poor cavalier. "What is this supposed to be? This is easy," Naruto bragged as he saw Zola's soldiers get easily slaughtered by Karin and his friends. "I wouldn't get so arrogant if I were you, boy," an oh-so-familiar voice said from behind Naruto, causing him to yelp in fright and suddenly throw a shuriken at whoever snuck up on him. Thankfully, it was only Saizo and he dodged just in time. "Don't sneak up on me like that," Naruto scolded the red-haired ninja. "Apologies," Saizo said, tossing a shuriken at an outlaw who had tried to kill him. The weapon embedded itself deeply into the man's stomach, leaving him on the ground writhing in pain. Saizo didn't care one bit as he stared Naruto dead in the eye. "These are new recruits to the Norian army. I found out that much from the way they just fight like common thugs. I wouldn't be so glad when you're facing the elite members of their army," Saizo lectured, throwing yet another shuriken at a dark mage who was dueling with a purple-haired woman who was in Karin's group. "So what exactly are you trying to say?" Naruto demanded, as he didn't know what Saizo was going on about. "I'm saying that you shouldn't just assume your opponent is weak because you haven't seemed to have yet learned this lesson. For example, what if one of those armored knights was actually a general and he marched up to you?" Saizo quizzed the blonde, who appeared to be thinking hard despite being in the midst of a battle. Get behind him somehow and beat him up from there," Naruto responded after a moment, saying the only thing he could think of as he wasn't very smart in terms of strategy. He was more of a straight-up fighter as he was in the war. "You fool, do you not know anything about Nor?" Saizo said resignedly, putting his hand on his forehead while breathing a heavy sigh. "Well, I only know that you're at war with them, but aside from that, not much about it," Naruto stated. "Fine, I suppose you'll learn firsthand. Now stop standing around and get back in the fight," Saizo ordered, jumping away to help Kei's fight against a pair of dark mages. Naruto got back in the fight himself by knocking out a cavalier with a Rasengan. Naruto was looking for someone else to attack with his chakra balls when he heard a new voice. "Aw man, what the heck's going on here? I thought we were in Izumo." The neutralist of neutral countries, a young male voice complained from outside the palace. Naruto was the only who heard him because of his enhanced hearing, and he rushed straight to the wall to listen in on the newcomer's conversation. "Have you seen Lord Takumi? I didn't get much out those Norian soldiers back there," he asked somebody. "Perhaps that's because you tied them up and gagged them before questioning them." "Hinata," a woman's voice snapped. Naruto's eyes widened slightly at that name, but realized that this wasn't the Hinata from his world, just somebody using the same name. "Just like Sakura, you would have done the same, Oboro. I know you don't like Nor. And besides, I'd kill as many people to find Lord Takumi," Hinata told his female companion, whose name was revealed. "Bah, I wish you were the one missing, you dolt. Then it would just be me and Lord Takumi in a spa." Oboro muttered dreamily, hinting that she had a crush on this Takumi person. Keep it to yourself, woman. Let's just find Lord Takumi or hints at where his is and get out of here." Hinata groaned as he approached the entrance to the building. "You're right for once. I can't stand the sight of these Norian scum. If any of them dared even laid a finger on Lord Takumi, I don't know what I'll do," Oboro growled menacingly. "Okay, you've proved your point, but pull yourself together. If you just kill all of them, then what will we do?" Hinata asked a bit nervously. "Of course I'll spare a few, idiot. I'll kill the rest, now come on," Oboro hissed, walking towards the door. Naruto couldn't help but think that those two were like him and Sakura in their early days as ninja. He sighed as the door swung opening, revealing the two retainers. "Die Norian," Oboro shouted as she swung a naginata at Naruto, who barely dodged. "Hey, I'm not with Nor. I'm with some guy called Karin. Naruto yelled back, causing Oboro to stop swinging and look at him suspiciously. Only then did Naruto get a look at her. Oboro was a young woman with deep dark blue hair in a ponytail that reached down to her mid-waist. She wore orange clothes with some blue on them and was holding a naginata. Behind her was Hinata. Hinata was another young man with brown hair tied in a ponytail. He wore standard samurai gear and had what seemed to be small scars on his face. Karin? As in Lord Karin? Oboro asked, not lowering her guard one bit, unnerving Naruto with the look on her face. Yeah, hey Karin, these guys are looking for you. Naruto shouted to Karin, who came over with confusion. And who are you? The prince asked the retainers, who softened up considerably. I'm Oboro. The dolt back there is Hinata. We're Lord Takumi's retainers. Have you seen him, by the way? Oboro introduced herself, ignoring Hinata's glare. No, but we're doing all we can to look for him. If you want, you too can join us. I only ask that you avoid killing these Norians, Karin told the retainers. Oboro grew a massive scowl on her face as soon as she heard the word, Nor. I'll try to at the very least. It's just that whenever I see one of those evil jerks, I start to rage. Oboro snarled, her face turning into a pure demonic expression as she let out an angry growl. She then readied her naginata. Excuse me Lord Karin, I need to vent some anger. Eat this Nohrian scum. Oboro thundered, charging into the fray. Naruto looked back at Hinata, who shifted uneasily. Don't look at me, she just hates Nor. Hinata blurted awkwardly. Okay, I'm Naruto by the way, Naruto said quickly before jumping back into the fight himself to help Tsubaki deal with some archers that were overpowering him. Hey, kid reminds me of dad. Hinata chuckled softly to himself as he joined in the brawl by sparring with an armor knight who had decided to go for him. The rest of the battle went pretty smoothly after Oboro and Hinata's arrival. While Zola's troops had the advantage in numbers, they were not much in the way of skill as Karin's army easily put them down. Right now, Naruto was dealing with a pair of dark mages who were trying to work together to take out the blonde shinobi. Is this the best you got? This isn't much other than a workout. Naruto taunted, which made all the Norian forces in his area turn to him with angry scowls on their faces and charge directly at him. Oh crap, Naruto muttered quietly, cursing his arrogance as he quickly jumped on a knight's head and jumped away into another room, hearing blades clash from unspecified people. Probably Saizo or Hayato or Karin or some other person from Karin's army. Hello? A familiar voice echoed down the hallway. Naruto's curiosity took over as he walked down to see who was yelling. If someone is there, could you please let me out? It's been a week since I've been in this cell and I haven't had a cup of joe yet. The voice was the real Izana. The Archduke was behind a jail cell with a moody expression on his face. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Naruto replied as he charged up a Rasengan and slammed it against the bars, causing an explosion and Izana to stumble out. Wow, that was the coolest magic I've seen in the history of forever. How did you do that? Tell me please. Izana dawdled childishly, making Naruto briefly wonder if this guy was real or another fake. That'll take a long time to explain. In fact, did you know that we broke your rule of neutrality? Naruto told the Archduke, who he expected to be angry. But he didn't appear enraged at all. I think I can make an exception just this one time. After all, that's not me up there sitting in my spa? Izana said, slapping Naruto's back with surprising strength. Ah, that reminds me, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Izana, the guy who won something, Naruto interrupted, causing Izana to get a hurt expression on his face. What, did he even tell you about my hair? Naruto nodded. Ah, but my hair's one of my prized traits. Izana complained, tears threatening to fall. I'm gonna leave now. Bye, Naruto said awkwardly as he slowly started to back away from Izana, who was still smiling blissfully, unaware that he was creeping Naruto out. Goodbye fox boy. Next time you come, I'm gonna have a spa and a nice warm pair of slippers waiting for you. Izana hollered down the hall. Naruto entered the battle scene to discover a dozen dead or unconscious soldiers, and the purple-haired woman that Kase was helping spar with the last remaining few. Rasengan! The blonde yelled, plowing the last couple of soldiers with his father's signature move and knocking them all out. Ah yes, you're the new kid with the strange magic. All these soldiers have been muttering about you. It appears you've made quite the impression on them. the purple-haired woman said off-handedly as Naruto looked towards her. Well, I've always wanted attention. Just not in the way that they'll kill me. Naruto replied as the woman chuckled at his brashness. Oh, how rude of me. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is known as Orochi. I am, or was, a retainer to the late Queen of Hoshido, Lady Mikoto. Is there something wrong? You've tensed up, the now named Orochi observed the blonde. Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. It's just that name reminded me of someone I knew, Naruto replied with a sigh, thanking the gods that he wouldn't have to deal with who he was thinking of anymore. And who was this person, pray do tell? Orochi asked, intrigued. He was called Orochimaru. He's obsessed with snakes and took my friend away. He also had a whole damn village all to his own. Naruto ranted. The snake Sanin had caused so much trouble for him back in his world. I see. Well, if knowing it will make you feel better, I find snakes creepy and I don't think I would be leader material, Orochi said, her smile still faint on her lips. I already knew that, it's just that name. Naruto started, but not before a massive burst of smoke enveloped the whole room while someone was laughing evilly. Naruto recognized that laugh belonged to the guy that was posing as Izana. His name was Zola from what he remembered, and he was making an escape. Kurama, I need help. Where is he? Naruto asked frantically as his senses couldn't pick up any trace of the dark mage anywhere. Over there, brat. Just behind you, the fox replied, and Naruto tackled Zola to the ground, causing a shriek of surprise from the scrawny man. And where do you think you're going? Naruto taunted the man who looked terrified out of his wits. Oh, I was just going to turn myself in. No more crimes for me. Ha ha ha, ha? Zola said meekly, as Naruto charged up a Rasengan to get rid of the man. You'll be going to hell, Zola. You've embarrassed our kingdom for the very last time, a new stern voice responded for the mage. Naruto barely had time to dodge what seemed to be a tree growing out of the ground right in Zola's right arm, causing him to cry out in pain. Hey, contemptible vermin, the voice muttered as the smoke cleared, revealing the newcomer. He was a boy near Naruto's age, dressed in black armor and rode a horse with black armor. He held a book in his hand which seemed to radiate power. He also had light blonde hair and a scowl on his face. Hey, I was gonna take care of him. Who the hell are you? Naruto shouted, lunging at the boy angrily. The boy on the other hand just raised his book and another tree burst from the ground into Naruto's leg, causing him to land heavily on the ground with a thud and groan of pain. If you must know that badly, Hoshiden, I am here to take care of the trash that has disgraced Nor with his trickery, the boy growled, making Zola cower in fright. Lord Leo, please understand, I was just trying to preserve my dignity. Surely you understand? Zola begged pathetically. Dignity? You know nothing of the sort. Now do me and Nor a favor and die. Leo scoffed, readying his tome to finish the cowardly mage off. Naruto could barely hear Karin called Leo's name as Kurama opened a mind link. That's some power he's got, Naruto. I'd watch out for him, but you don't listen to a thing I say, do you? Kurama told his host, who was watching Karin talk with Leo. He saw Leo snarl at Karin how he abandoned him and how he has no right to order him around. Huh? Did you say something, Fox? Naruto asked Kurama, who sighed. Never mind, the nine tails breathed, canceling the mind link as Leo grabbed Zola and shoved him at Karin, who deftly stepped out his way, causing the mage to fall face first on the ground for what seemed like the 5th time that day. Keep this idiot if you want. It doesn't matter at all, Karin. You will pay for what you've done when the time is right. I'll be sure of it. Leo sneered and maneuvered his horse expertly towards the exit, whereupon he took his leave. Karin tried to go after him, but Hinoka put a hand on his shoulder, gravely shaking her head. I wouldn't go after him, Karin, that was quite the display of power he showed, the Hoshtian princess said grimly. Lord Leo is a gifted dark mage, all right. He's feared and respected in Hoshido. Felicia perked up, revealing some new info on this Leo. But still, the Leo the first knew was curious and kind. What happened to him? Karin asked sadly, his head looking at his feet. I hate to remind you, Karin, but people change. That Leo guy must hate you now for what you did to him. Naruto started but was cut off by the prince, who sighed heavily. I know that I'm hated in Nor now, Naruto. I just wasn't expecting it to spread to Leo. He's always been a brother to me, Karin told the blonde. Naruto was about to reply when a certain Archduke burst noisily into the room looking all ecstatic as ever. Wahoo! Thanks for freeing me from that cell. This calls for wait for it. An all-night party. We'll wear pajamas and eat bonbons. It'll be great. Izana shouted, startling everyone with his unexpected presence. Are sure this is the real Archduke Naruto? Hinoka asked Naruto, who looked closely, and Kurama confirmed it for him. Yeah, he's real. I found him in a cell while you were fighting. Although personally, I don't think he takes his job seriously. Naruto whispered that last part in case Izana would be insulted by him. Thankfully, the Archduke was too busy in his ramblings to even care about Naruto. I can see that. Anyway, Archduke, before we, hopefully never, get to the bonbons, I would like to ask, has there been any conflicts with Norians lately? Karin asked Izana, who paused in his rambling and frowned. Ah yes, those jerks. We were just relaxing, listening to some music and having some massages when all of a sudden, kablammy. There was a massive explosion, and when I went to see what it was, I was captured and thrown in my own jail. Izana explained, regaining his trademark smile while the occupants in the room's sweat dropped at his explanation. I'm sorry you had to suffer through that, Archduke, but I have another question for you. Have you seen our brothers, Lord Takumi and Ryoma? Karin asked. Well, I know them. That's something, right? Anyway, I heard that they were in a fight and it stretched all the way to the bottomless canyon. I don't know if they're still alive though, I'm just guessing. Heck, they might have fallen in. Izana responded cheerfully, oblivious to the whimper from Sakura and glares from Hinata, Oboro, and Saizo. Calm down, all of you. It's very unlikely that they're dead. Just believe that they're alive and healthy. After all, our brothers are not the type to just fall in a canyon. Hinoka tried nervously to ease the tension. The army. Yes, I'm sorry. It was very rude of me to speculate like that. It's just that place is so dangerous that I had my doubts. Anyway, can I make it up to you by reading your fortune? Izana offered. I'm a bit skeptical of your fortune-telling ability, but this is your kingdom, so we'll go with it. Karin accepted the offer and Izana pulled out what seemed to be a crystal ball. Don't worry, I'm a descendant of the gods, so my fortunes are usually right, Izana said brightly before placing his hands on the ball and was slowly surrounded by a light purple glow. Oh great and ancient gods! What's up? Nearly everyone's sweat dropped at that statement. A full minute passed and Izana hadn't said anything and they were bored out of their mind. Oh wait, I'm getting something. This caught everyone's attention. In the white light, a hand reaches through. A double-edged blade cuts your heart in two. Waking dreams fade away. Embrace the brand new day. Izana sung out. Nobody saw the shocked face of Azura. And that's it, I'm done, Izana said cheerfully, putting the ball away in his pocket. That was just a bunch of words, what does that have to do with anything? Naruto asked suspiciously, with some people nodding in agreement. Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I just read fortunes, I don't actually know what they mean, Izana said, his smile fading a little. Well, at least we got what we wanted. Thank you for your time, Archduke. Karin bowed and turned to the group. Let's get back to the fort, he ordered, and everyone hastily shuffled out of the palace, some more quickly than others. Goodbye, friends. Good luck finding your friends, Izana called joyfully after them, making them wonder if all country leaders were like this. They didn't notice Zola slip out undetected. After returning to the fort and explaining to Naruto that they were in a different plane of existence called the astral realm, the blonde had marched over to the mess hall to grab a quick snack before dinner. Why does cooking ramen have to take so long, damn it? Naruto complained to himself, because in his world, the old man had always had some ramen prepared the day before and would heat it up when Naruto came to eat. But in this world, nobody had even made some in the fort and Naruto didn't know how to cook if his life depended on it. The blonde sighed resignedly. Walking into the mess hall, he found nobody in charge. Hey, nobody will mind if I take a quick snack, do they? Naruto thought mischievously, as he strolled casually behind the counter and into the storeroom, where there was all kinds of food on the shelves. He stopped in front of what appeared to be a giant slab of meat and started reaching for it when he suddenly heard the door open behind him. Haha, are you really that hungry, kid? A girl's voice chuckled, making Naruto to spin around and nearly throw a shuriken in fright. But thankfully for his and the girl's sake, he was able to contain himself as he calmed down from the initial shock. What does it look like? You don't have any ramen and I'm hungry, so what am I supposed to do? Naruto retorted, resulting in the girl to scowl slightly. That was just a statement, kid. You don't need to be so rude about it, the girl snapped back. Naruto could have sworn he saw a fire lighting up in the girl's eyes, but it vanished as soon as he could confirm it, so he wasn't able to confirm its existence. Sorry, I'm just really hungry. Naruto replied as he grabbed a chunk of meat and shoved it all the way in his mouth. All feelings of hunger went away in a heartbeat. I'm going now. Let me know when dinner's ready. Naruto declared, hastily walking to the door to leave before he made a fool of himself again. Hey, sure kid. By the way kid, I'm Rinka. Of the fire tribe which lives in Hoshido, the now named Rinka introduced herself, extending her hand. I'm Naruto. I'm a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto responded, shaking the hand. Naruto couldn't help but notice that Rinka's hand felt warm, like it was on fire. I've never heard of it. Then again, it must be hidden for a reason, right? Rinka asked, and Naruto knew what she was getting at. However, only he knew that the leaf was in another world, so nobody could go there anyway. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure why it's called the Hidden Leaf. I mean, it's not exactly covered by leaves, it's visible from the sky. In fact, some people say it's surrounded by leaves instead, and to be fair, I kind of have to agree with them, Naruto stated his opinion. In fact, the same could be said for all the other hidden villages as well. So it's just a village with a pointless title. I'm cool with that, Rinka said coolly, walking into the room and grabbing a bag of rice. And what about you? Do they literally worship fire, or some guy who's on fire, where you're from? Naruto asked in amusement, which earned him a short laugh from Rinka. If only you knew kid, if only you knew. Rinka muttered as she turned on a stove which flared to life. Listen, I'm gonna start cooking, so I gotta focus. Could you leave? We can talk again later, the warrior told Naruto, who nodded and started to leave. Alright, what are you making by the way? Naruto asked her as he stepped through the door. Just some rice balls. Not the fanciest choice, I know, but it's something. Rinka called from her work, and Naruto took that as his cue to leave and let her focus. Well, now what do I do? Naruto asked himself as he looked around for something to do. Any suggestions, Kurama? Naruto turned to his fox friend for help, who just snorted indifferently. Why are you asking me? Have a look at the buildings that you haven't been in yet. Like that one just over there, Kurama said, referring to the building just a couple of meters from Naruto. Gee thanks, Naruto said sarcastically, walking to the building and entering to find all sorts of weapons on shelves. They ranged from katanas, naganatas, what appeared to be clubs, some bows, sets of shuriken, and what seemed to be scrolls. Must be some kind of armory, Naruto guessed as he looked around to see who was running the store, and instantly stopped dead in his tracks. It's you. I trust you have been faring well, you orange disaster? Izama chuckled from behind the counter, remembering his early encounter with Naruto earlier that day. What the hell are you doing here? Shouldn't you be praying or whatever it is you do? Naruto spat back. Normally he wouldn't be so rude, but he figured this guy wouldn't care how he was talked to. Believe me, brightly orange madness, I would yearn for that. But Lady Hinoka shoved me in this store selling weapons. Yep, this guy didn't care. Now is there anything I can get you, or have you come to talk some more? Izama said, his smile not fading one little bit. Actually, I was just curious as to what this place was, and now I see this is a weapons shop. But now that I'm here, I really could go some shuriken, Naruto replied, and Izama went to the shelf where the various pointy objects were and grabbed a bunch before putting them on the counter in front of Naruto. I trust that will suffice? And don't dawdle, it annoys us both, Izama said as Naruto shoved them in his pocket. Yeah, that'll do. Thanks for that, Naruto said as he turned to leave. Goodbye, orange madness. Come again soon, Izama called cheerily behind him as the door shut behind him. Okay, that's one down, Naruto thought as he eyed the building next to him and entered that one. When he stepped in, he saw a lot of unfamiliar items on the shelves. There were small bottles as well as staffs with a bulb at the ends. Naruto had no idea what those were or what they did. Oh, you're the new guy. A tired voice drawled from behind the counter, which belonged to a blue-haired girl whose mentioned hair covered one of her eyes. Yeah, I am. I'm Naruto. And who are you? Naruto replied cheerfully as the girl grew a smile on her face. I'm Setsuna, Lady Hinoka's retainer. I'm good with a bow and get stuck in traps all the time. Setsuna said in the same tired tone. Almost as she was done talking, a snapping noise was heard and Naruto peeked under the counter to find a mousetrap attached to Setsuna's stomach. Does this happen all the time? If so, then you must have really short luck when it comes to that sort of things, huh? Naruto asked as Setsuna removed the trap and threw it away. Yeah. Although Lady Hinoka or some other fancy person often come and bail me out of all the pitfalls and rope traps that I get stuck in all the time, Setsuna replied. Now is there anything you want? She asked, threatening to yawn again. Nah, I was just taking a look at this place. I'm gonna go now cause you don't look like want to be here, Naruto said, and Setsuna frowned a bit. That's not true, I like being here. It's just that it can get rather boring when nobody comes. I like to count how many vulneraries are on the shelves, but that can get rather dull sometimes. Setsuna corrected, sighing into her own thoughts. Oh okay, sorry about that. Naruto apologized, but he noticed that Setsuna was staring as if she didn't care. Goodbye, come again, I guess, she said, losing herself to her own thoughts. Naruto didn't want to bother her, so he just left without a sound. Okay, next, he said out loud, walking through a door which was on a carriage attached to a horse. Inside was a small lottery machine on a table which was being managed by a young brown-haired girl with a katana by her side. Hello there, have you come to try your luck? It takes just a second, the girl said with a slight smile on her face. Well actually, I was just looking around to see what's what. But while I'm here, what's the catch to this? Naruto asked. Just that you can only do this once per day. But aside from that, it's for free. The girl replied. Okay, then spin it already. I'm Naruto by the way, Naruto demanded, as well as introducing himself for what seemed like the 1000th time. Alright, hope you get lucky. And my name is Hana. I'm one of Lady Sakura's retainers alongside Tsubaki, the now identified Hana said, while spinning the wheel. Yeah, that guy did say something about you when he told me about that time when he saved Sakura from bandits. Naruto recalled the perfectionist mention her name. Hana, however, just groaned and rolled her eyes. I swear, they only came just so that fool can show off. In fact, he knows that I've known Lady Sakura the longest, which makes me the better retainer than him. Hana snapped, showing that she had a rivalry with the man. Right. Well, good luck to you in your little quest to outdo him. You're gonna need it, Naruto said, with Hana chuckling a little bit. I wouldn't call it a war between us, it's more of a friendly rivalry. But thanks anyway, Hana remarked as the wheel stopped and a brown ball emerged from the small hole. Ah, that's too bad. At least you get a consolation prize. Hana said solemnly, handing Naruto a whole fish. And what the heck am I supposed to do with this? Naruto asked, dumbfounded, as he slowly took the fish. I don't know. Make a fish dinner or something. I'm not gonna stop you. Or you could put it in the mess hall with all the other food, Hana said, offering her advice. Naruto considered that, but remembered that Rinka was in there and she asked not to be disturbed. Yeah, I'll probably do that, Naruto said, walking towards the exit, fish in hand. Come again. Hopefully you'll have better luck next time, Hana called as Naruto left, reminiscing about the time he won a lottery. The grand prize was a full set of Jiraiya's books signed by the Toad Sage himself. Naruto just took them all home, much to Kakashi's dismay, and he had left them there ever since. Yeah, at least the prizes won't be something stupid like a bunch of perverted books, Naruto thought as he walked along looking for somewhere to dispose of the fish. He came across a small pond, only to realize that the fish was dead, so that wasn't an option. It was also raw, so eating it wasn't also a bright idea. I know that Rinka girl said not to disturb her, but what else am I going to do with this? Naruto thought, running towards the mess hall, fish in hand. When he entered, he smelt as if something was on fire or was being burnt. Hey, you're burning what you're cooking, he shouted before tossing the fish on the counter and bolting. Rinka, who had heard him, looked at her rice balls and saw that a couple were too burnt to be eaten. Looks like I overdid it. Again, she groaned, throwing the overburnt balls away and putting the mildly burnt ones on a table before leaving to the rice garden nearby to get some fresh rice. Whenever Rinka cooked, her food always came out a little bit charred. Her father had tried to teach her to improve her cooking skills, but that didn't help Rinka's dishes from becoming a little barbecued at the very least. Okay, now that fish is gone, now what do I do? Naruto asked himself out loud as he wandered around aimlessly. Hey, you wearing the orange suit? Someone called out and Naruto looked over to see a young man in black armor rush over to him. Hey man, what's up? Why are you in such a breather? Naruto asked the boy who was breathing hard after running. He must have run a long way. Karin wants to see you in his private quarters. It's the treehouse. And I'm Silas, Karin's best friend, the boy named Silas said, extending his hand for a shake. I'm Naruto. And do you know why Karin wants to spend his time talking to me? Naruto asked Silas, who shrugged. I don't know. He was busy so he asked me to fetch you. Anyway, come on, I'll take you to his quarters, Silas admitted, beckoning Naruto to follow, who did so at a steady rate. So, are you Hoshiden or Norian? Silas asked after a couple minutes have passed, starting a conversation. Oh, I'm not from both of them. But since I live here now, I guess you call me a Hoshiden, Naruto replied, much to Silas's interest. Really? And where are you from? Silas popped the question, making Naruto close his eyes in thought as he tried to think of a suitable answer. If he just told Silas he's from another world, he might think he's mad. So he quickly lied about its location. Oh, I'm from a series of islands with villages in them. I'm from the Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto declared proudly, hoping that Silas would buy the lie and just leave it. I see. That's very interesting. I've never heard of such islands. Is it possible that we can go there? Silas asked, intrigued. Is it because I have these jutsus? Naruto asked before realizing what he just said when Silas looked at him confused. It's what we call our magic tricks, Naruto explained quickly, using the term which people thought his Rasengan was. Well, that's one reason. But the main reason is because I want to see what cultures and traditions they have, Silas said with a smile. Naruto felt the honesty in his tale and felt bad that the Leaf and all the other ninja villages were in another world. That's nice. But I don't think you can get there. They have a tight border guard and I'm gonna say that some people there aren't really fond of outsiders, Naruto said, which made Silas's smile vanish to be replaced with a look of disappointment. That's a shame. I hope that some people there will be more accepting than the ones you describe. Just where are these islands anyway? Silas asked the question that Naruto had been dreading. Although he didn't understand what Silas meant by that. What do you mean where they are? Naruto asked, genuinely confused as to what he was talking about. I mean, where exactly in the ocean are these islands? Silas made his question clearer, making Naruto sigh. But then he saw a treehouse that Silas was talking about and breathed a sigh of relief. Hey look, we're here, Naruto told Silas, who was surprised that they had made it to Karin's private quarters already and decided that his question could wait for another time. Who's here? Karin's voice asked from the balcony as he came to look at who shouted. He smiled when he saw Naruto. Thanks for coming, Naruto. There's something I would like to talk to you about. Oh, and sorry to take up your time, Silas, Karin said, to which the boy just waved it off. No problem, Karin. I saw how busy you were and I couldn't say no to my best friend. I'll see you later, Silas bid farewell and walked off to his own business. Come on up, Naruto. We have quite a bit to discuss, Karin said as Naruto jumped up the steps to the prince's surprise and entered the building. Please have a seat, Karin offered the shinobi a seat, which he accepted and gazed around the surprisingly luxurious room. Thanks. So what did you want me for, Karin? Do you want me to help you with all those papers? Because I can get them done in no time, Naruto said, referring to the giant stack of papers on a desk. Karin sighed wearily at the mention of the pile. I failed to see how you would be able to do such a feat. That stack is high enough to reach the ceiling, Karin stated, and indeed, the pile was just about touching the roof. Naruto chuckled because while he was training with Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki let him in on how to beat paperwork, shadow clones. The older man had not told his brother as he would get punched into next week for keeping it a secret from him. And Naruto knew what the fourth raikage was like when he was angry, an equivalent to an enraged bull. And another one falls to the wrath of the papers. Naruto joked, causing Karin to chuckle lightly as he remembered Leo muttering something about cursed papers during one of his visits when Karin was younger. Yes, well, we can talk about that another time. For now, I have a question I'd like to ask you, Karin said, breaking the mood, making Naruto sigh heavily. Fire away, he said. Thank you. I know this will be a pain to answer, but where did you get the ability to form those blue ball things in your hands? Karin asked, making Naruto smile. You mean this? He said, forming a Rasengan in his hand and showing it to Karin. Yes, exactly that. I'd like to know where you get the power to do that. Naruto prepared himself. I learned it at my home village, the Hidden Leaf. Although this thing was invented by my father, his teacher was kind enough to teach me it. Naruto told him, reminiscing learning the Rasengan from Jiraiya. And where exactly is this hidden leaf? Exactly? Karin asked, although this time, Naruto wouldn't give up its location that easily. Well, not yet anyway. It's called hidden for a reason, dummy. Or else it'd just be a giant village in the middle of nowhere. Naruto said half-heartedly and hoped that Karin would just leave it at that. Thankfully, he did. I see. Well, that's not like anything I've ever seen before. You can go now. Sorry for taking up your time. Karin apologized, which Naruto relished how often he said that word. It's not a problem, but it looks like you have something on your mind. Naruto observed how the prince seemed to be in deep thought. Oh, I had some more questions to ask you, but I forgot what they were. Maybe I'll know what they were when I learn a bit more about you, Karin said, laughing a little at his expense as Naruto left the treehouse. Naruto, you're a strange one. Real strange. The prince thought as he went to his desk and started battling the paperwork. A couple of hours had passed after Naruto's chat with Karin, and he was walking towards the mess hall when Rinka called out that dinner was done. Thanks for waiting, everyone. These rice balls were made with the Esanisi of my tribe. Feel honored, Rinka declared as everyone grabbed the balls and quickly noticed something. You do realize these are a little bit burnt, right? Hana asked the warrior, who frowned. I can't help it. It always happens when I cook. If you don't like it, I won't cook again. Rinka snapped crankily, grabbing some rice balls of her own and shoved something in Naruto's hands. I cooked that fish you gave me earlier and made this. You're welcome, the warrior said, sitting down at a table and began to munch away, much to his surprise. The will of fire burns strong in her, all right, Naruto thought in amusement as he sat down next to a green-haired ninja. Kase, if Naruto remembered correctly. How are you faring in our fort? Kase asked, starting up a conversation between the two ninja. Oh, quite good. I'm just wondering where I'm gonna sleep, that's all. Naruto replied, explaining his thoughts. I'm sure Lord Karin will have some quarters set up for you. That is if there's any left. You might have to share with someone else, like Saizo and Azura are, Kase said, getting a look from Saizo, who was sitting across them. Which the green-haired ninja just mouthed. What? And causing him to quickly look away. By the way, why are you two dressed so similar? Naruto asked, noticing that Kase and Saizo did indeed dress like the other. The answer came from Saizo, who looked up all of a sudden at Naruto, unnerving him slightly. He was born 5 seconds after me. That makes me the 5th heir to the Saizo clan, which has been serving the Hoshiden royal family for over 2 decades. Hence why I'm Lord Ryoma's retainer alongside another ninja by the name of Kagero. However, I have no idea where she is at this very moment, Saizo said, as if it was the most important thing in the entire world. Hopefully these clans won't be so arrogant like the Uchiha and some of those Hyuga were. Then again, from the way this guy's acting, I won't be so surprised if they were, Kurama said suddenly, startling Naruto, who shivered. Saizo noticed. I thought you were asleep, Fox? Naruto asked Kurama, who seemed to have woken up all of a sudden. I woke up a couple minutes ago, and was about to go right back to my beloved slumber when Mr. I here said he was from a clan. And you know how anxious I am around clans, Kurama said, and Naruto couldn't blame him, not what after Obito did to him when Naruto was born. And I'm going now. Don't bother me until tomorrow. The link was cut off at that moment. Hey kid, Saizo's voice was the next thing he heard. He looked at him to see the ninja staring at him expectantly. Oh sorry. I got all wrapped up in my thoughts. What were you saying? Naruto quickly blathered out, although he had no idea what the ninja said. I said, you claim to be a ninja, correct? Naruto nodded. Then allow me and my brother to test you tomorrow. I wish to see if you're not just all talk, Saizo said, getting up and walking off, leaving half a rice ball. Is he always like this? Naruto asked Kase, who was about to say something but was cut off by Karin, who stood on his seat, catching everyone's attention. Listen up everyone. Tomorrow we're going though Mokashu to get to the bottomless canyon to find Takumi and Ryoma. Rest up well, because who knows what might happen. The prince announced, and everyone trudged away to their own quarters. Always. You'll get used to it. Anyway, I suppose I shall see you tomorrow, and with that, Kase stood up and vanished. Excuse me? A shy voice timidly spoke up from behind Naruto. He turned around to see that it was the maid from earlier that day. Here's your key to your, whoops. Felicia tripped, falling face first and sending the keys flying into Naruto's face. Naruto started before the maid jumped up and snatched the keys from him. Sorry about that, Mr. Naruto. But Lord Karin asked me to give you keys to your own quarters, Felicia said quickly, dashing off leaving a very confused Naruto sitting there. Right, he said getting up. And she didn't even tell me where they are. He groaned as he left the mess hall wandering around wondering just where the accommodations for the fort. If you are looking for the quarters, they're a couple meters over that way. Your key should have your number written on it as all of them look exactly the same, a gentle voice said from behind. Naruto turned around to see the Azura girl who had accompanied them to Izumo. Thanks, I thought I was going to have to sleep under a tree tonight. Naruto thanked with relief, walking off to where Azura directed him without giving the girl a second glance. Right now, sleep was all that mattered to him. He reminds me of Takumi when he was younger, so hot-headed. Azura said with a slight smile, as the prince was also a bit brash like Naruto. Especially when it came to his rival country. Oh, and I'm Naruto by the way. Naruto called out before running away to retire for the night. Yes, just like Takumi. She mentally sighed, although if Takumi ever caught her saying that in front of him, he'd get very angry, and an angry Takumi was not a pleasant sight. The blue-haired princess smirked before heading to the nearby lake. She decided to practice singing there before retiring herself. The next day, when Naruto had opened his eyes, he had no idea at first where he was. But then he gradually remembered the events from yesterday and how he wasn't in his apartment in the Leaf anymore. Oh right, I'm in a war. Again, the blonde groaned blearily, slowly removing himself from the bed and got dressed before leaving. The room itself was a small room with 2 beds, a desk, and a pair of windows. From what Karin told him yesterday, he could improve the rooms once he got enough power, which he didn't have at the moment. Naruto opened the door to be unsuspectingly hit with a blast of fresh air which made him stagger a bit. Looks like someone just woke up, I see, a familiar voice stated from the rooftops. Yeah, and what of it, Mr. Grumble? Naruto retorted, causing Saizo's only functioning eye to twitch slightly before regaining his posture. I wanted to remind you that my brother and I will be testing your skills to see if you're a ninja as they claim. Regardless if Kagero doesn't show up, Saizo said with the same tone that he always uses. And if she does show up? Naruto asked, causing Saizo to chuckle lightly. Then that means someone else for you to survive against and a helping hand for us, the ninja said, suddenly vanishing where he stood. Pa, that guy. Naruto muttered, shaking his head as he walked to the mess hall for breakfast, before realizing he totally forgot to greet a certain someone. Hey Kurama, how's it going? Naruto said to the fox who just sighed. Fine brat, I should be asking you that. What with you being in a new world and whatnot, Kurama said, wondering how his Jinchuriki was holding up at this very moment. Oh, I'm fine, but I'm still wondering why you just come and go at times, Naruto said, avoiding the tailed beast's question. You will have to answer that later. You know that, right? Kurama stated, making Naruto wince as he knew the fox would pick up on that. Yeah, I know. Just give me time to formulate an answer, that's all, Naruto said, shutting off the link and entering the mess hall for breakfast, which was cooked beans by Hinata. They were edible at the very least, and after an uneventful breakfast, everyone got ready to depart. Later, Naruto walked alongside Karin down a forest road after leaving the astral realm, which had somehow moved its location to where the prince needed to go exactly. Speaking of which, so remind me, Karin, why are we walking down this forest road again? The blonde asked the prince, who looked over his shoulder to address Naruto. Well, according to Azura, the only way to the bottomless canyon is through Mokashu, which is another independent nation like Izumo. Although I can only hope that it hasn't been compromised by Nor. Karin explained to Naruto, who suddenly looked over at the bushes. There's no point in hiding. I know you're there, he shouted, and a familiar face emerged from the trees. Not bad, kid. I thought nobody could see me, Zola said with a sinister chuckle. Zola, what are you? Rasengan. Naruto blasted the mage into the trees out of sight. Naruto, I understand your mistrust, but you should have at least heard out what he had to say, Karin scolded. Naruto huffed dismissively. No way, man. You saw what he was like back there in Izumo. He just doesn't look like the type to beg for mercy. And besides, something tells me he was a spy for whoever runs Nor. Naruto snapped back. Zola, who had seemingly recovered, heard the entire conversation and growled slightly. Damn, how did he know? Looks like I'm going to have to change my plans a little. Zola said through gritted teeth and stalked off, plotting vengeance against Naruto. Karin, even if you disagree with Naruto's methods, that swine's is probably dead or long gone by now, Hinoka said, putting a hand on Karin's shoulder to stop him from yelling at the blonde. Fine, but that had better mean good news with him gone, Karin said sternly before marching onward past Naruto. The blonde was about to say something before he felt Hinoka's hand on his shoulder. Don't talk to him. He's in a bad mood right now after what you did. Good work, by the way. I didn't trust him either, the redhead said before something whizzed past her eyes, startling her. What the? A shuriken? She exclaimed, pulling out her naginata as ninja appeared from the trees. One of them, a man wearing an eye patch, approached Karin and started speaking. Greetings, Prince Karin. In case you didn't know, our kingdom has signed an agreement with Nor, the man said gleefully as he eyed Karin like a hawk. I can see that. And who are you? Karin responded back. I am Kotaro, daimyo of Mokashu. The man introduced himself with a mock bow. Naruto caught a growl from Saizo, who had appeared behind Kase, who looked surprised at his brother's hostility. Pray do tell what has angered you, Saizo? Kase asked, unshaken by the killer intent Saizo was emitting. Kase, you might not know it, but this man is responsible for the death of our father, the redhead growled, drawing a shuriken and completely ignoring the shocked look on Kase's face. So what, you plan to get revenge? Naruto asked. This was starting to remind him of Sasuke and Itachi. Exactly, Saizo said, clutching his weapon even tighter. Naruto looked back to see that Kotaro was in a battle stance. Enough talk, traitor to Nor. When I'm done with you, King Garen's gonna grant me new territory. And I just can't wait to build a castle where Hoshido once stood. The daimyo shouted as Karin defiantly drew his sword. Not if I have anything to say about it. He yelled back as he charged at a ninja, starting the inevitable battle. Nobody ever noticed the dark presence lurking in the woods. Kill. I shall kill them all. A voice groaned, moving towards the battle. The sound of shuriken pierced the air as Naruto hid swiftly behind a tree to avoid getting impaled by 10 or more ninja. Geez, there's so many of them. Thank God that none of them don't know what a jutsu is, or else we'd be in trouble. Naruto thought as he threw shuriken of his own to counter the ninja's barrage. However, they didn't fly far as they were stopped easily, and the blonde shinobi felt the impact of the projectiles on the tree. Arg, shadow clone jutsu. Naruto growled, effortlessly performing the hand seal required, and created an exact replica of Naruto appeared in a puff of smoke, while the original looked around to see if any of his allies were watching. Thankfully he didn't see any of them. Or so he thought. How very curious. Was he a mechanist once? Kase wondered from the treetops, as he knew that very talented mechanists could perform a skill called replicate, which makes a copy, but the user also takes the damage the clone takes, making it very risky to use. Yeah, be quiet. I need you to take out those guys trying to kill me. And don't get seen. Naruto hissed at the clone, who nodded. It quickly jumped behind the ninja, who had no idea what hit them, as the clone knocked them all out with a strong chop to each head. The clone then vanished in a puff of smoke by Naruto, as to not raise more questions. Well, that went well. I wonder how, Naruto started before suddenly realizing he had stepped on something spiky. He looked down to find out that the ground was indeed covered in dirt-covered pointy spikes. Okay, whose bright idea was it to just leave spikes on the ground? Naruto complained as the new pain in his foot suddenly burst, causing him to wince in pain and clutch it, although he had to lean on a tree because his foot was in agony. Oh my goodness, that looks awful. A shy voice attracted Naruto's attention, which Naruto immediately recognized as Sakura, who had healed him with Azama. Yeah, well, it hurts as well. If you could find some guy with a healing thing, could you go get him? Naruto asked her. The girl just giggled and brought out her healing staff. Or you could have it. That works, Naruto said as Sakura raised her staff and the wound in Naruto's foot started to slowly vanish. Sakura? Are you there? Another familiar voice yelled out, which Naruto soon found out was Hinoka, who was looking concerned. There you are. Don't wander off like that again. You might get yourself killed. Sorry big sister, but the new guy got hurt really badly and I couldn't just leave him. Sakura retorted as Hinoka looked down and winced at the marking in Naruto's foot. You're right, Sakura, I shouldn't have yelled at you like that, I'm sorry. Hinoka apologized before Karin rushed over in a hurry. Hinoka, there's someone coming, he said, pointing to where a figure was emerging out of the woods, revealing itself to be a young man wearing regal clothing while wielding a bow. He also had silver hair that reached down his mid-back, tied back in a ponytail. But the odd thing about him was he was swaying slightly and his head was lowered. He was also making small groaning noises. Naruto had no idea who he was supposed to be, but the three siblings did. Takumi, you're alive, Karin shouted with happiness at seeing his brother alive and well. Takumi looked up, revealing the dark, unreadable expression on his face. I'm so happy to see you, brother. I thought the worst had happened when I heard you went missing. Hinoka said with glee while Sakura was smiling happily. That smile soon vanished as Takumi raised his bow, firing an arrow right at Hinoka, who barely sidestepped to avoid being impaled. What was that for? That could have killed me. Hinoka shrieked as Karin looked dumbfounded as to what just happened. In Naruto's head, Kurama opened one of his eyes and frowned. Naruto, he's being controlled by something. And it's getting stronger with every minute, he said importantly while watching how this would work out. Kill, Takumi muttered eerily. I should have been the chosen one. He raised his bow for another shot, this time aiming at Karin, who deftly blocked it with his sword. Takumi, are you alright? We'll get you. Shut up. Takumi roared, firing yet another arrow at the prince, who barely dodged this time. I am the most powerful one in the family. Yet I'm ignored, forgotten, alone. I refuse to stand in the shadows anymore. They will all see me for the first targ. Takumi rambled, clutching his head in pain before rising up again. I will make them pay for what they've done. I will make them. I will make them. His gaze angrily landed on Naruto. Die, he shouted and fired an arrow at the blonde, who jumped out of the way. Whoa, what the heck's wrong with you? What have we ever done to you? Naruto shouted at the archer, whose face twisted into an angered expression. Be quiet and die. Takumi thundered, suddenly firing yet another arrow from his seemingly endless supply. Naruto sidestepped and threw a shuriken at the archer, who avoided it despite his rigid movements. You think you're more powerful than me? Just die already, Takumi said, pulling the bowstring all the way back this time so that when Naruto evaded it, it made a hole through the tree behind him. What are we supposed to do about this guy? Naruto asked the three siblings, who were anxiously watching Naruto's efforts to evade the archer's attacks. He was too focused on the blonde to care about his siblings. Takumi, stop it now. You're saying stupid things. We do love you. You have that bow which makes you unique. Hinoka tried one last time to use the peaceful, diplomatic approach. However, Takumi just ignored her and ran after Naruto, who had silently retreated into the woods. Oh my! A new voice spoke up from behind Karin, revealing itself to be Azura. What is it, Azura? Do you know what's wrong with Takumi? Karin asked the girl, who nodded grimly. I need you to protect me from Takumi while I get rid of his alignment, Azura just said before going after the archer. Karin looked confused, but left it and followed the songstress to aid her in her mission. Hinoka and Sakura looked at one another before nodding and running after them. It wasn't a good day for one Naruto Uzumaki right now. One reason was because he was in a war again. But the main reason was because there was this madman with a bow trying to kill him. No one notices me, no one cares. Takumi muttered as he pulled out a handful of arrows. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, he fired them all at once, one grazing past Naruto's head. How'd I stop this guy? Naruto thought in disbelief. He couldn't kill him, that would get him into trouble. But the guy was trying to kill him and he needed to defend himself somehow. Naruto sighed and made a seal. Shadow clone Jutsu. He shouted and 5 Narutos appeared around Takumi, who looked stunned for a second, but it got replaced by the same emotionless face. What? He muttered before one of the Narutos behind him grabbed his arms, pinning them behind his back, as another Naruto threw punches at the archer, who didn't flinch one bit. That'll keep him occupied while I get out of here, Naruto thought, and was about to run away when Azura appeared from the bushes. Stop hurting him, she shouted, and the Naruto punching Takumi stopped, but didn't let his guard down. I can help him, but I need you to stop harming him so that I can focus, she explained, and the clone backed off hesitantly, although the one holding Takumi didn't let go of him in case the worst happened. Azura calmly yet boldly walked up to Takumi and closed her eyes. Takumi, listen to me closely, you're being controlled by a dark force. Just focus on my song and nothing else. Azura said and began to sing. You are the ocean's great waves. Destined to seek life beyond the shore, just out of reach. Yet the waters ever change. Flowing like time, the path is yours to climb. Naruto was so mesmerized by her voice that he didn't notice the blue glow surrounding Takumi. Gi ya ya ha 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 ha. He screamed and his hostile aura vanished and his eyes changed to an amber color. But only Azura saw that, which made her smile. You can let go, Naruto. He's better now, isn't that right, Takumi? She softly asked the archer, who had a dazed look on his face. I think so. Where are we and who is this? Takumi asked woozily, eyeing Naruto, and was surprised to see 5 of him. But they all disappeared in puffs of smoke, including the Naruto holding Takumi, making him stagger to regain his balance. I'm Naruto of the Hidden Leaf. You wouldn't be this Takumi guy that everyone's talking about, would you? Naruto asked, extending his hand with a smile, knowing that this guy was no longer trying to impale him. That I am, kid, Takumi said with a slight smile, shaking Naruto's hand. Just out of curiosity, what was I doing the past couple of minutes? He asked, making Naruto frown. You mean you don't remember? He asked. Takumi shook his head. You were trying to kill Karin and those 2 other girls back there and went after me. And by the way, is your bow special or something? Where do you get your arrows from? He asked eagerly. First, this bow is a sacred weapon called the Fujin Yumi. And it produces its own arrows. And are my siblings really here? He asked with interest. Yep, last I saw them they were back there. No doubt wondering what's wrong with yo. Takumi, are you alright? Karin's voice came from the woods, making Takumi frown slightly. Yes brother, I'm fine now. I'm sorry for trying to kill you earlier, but I wasn't myself. Will you forgive me? He asked with uneasiness in his voice. Of course, I knew something was wrong the moment I saw you. Hinoka and Sakura as well as your retainers will be thrilled to see you back to normal. And by the way, have you seen Ryoma? I heard he was with you when you went to the bottomless canyon, so you must know where he is, right? Karin asked, resulting in a frown from Takumi. Sorry, but all I remember is falling into the canyon and waking up here. I don't know where he is, Takumi said grimly, worried for his older brother despite not talking to him very much before his mother's death. Clang! Everyone looked to see Naruto and an enemy ninja throwing shuriken at each other. Only Karin was surprised when the blonde ninja disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto then came flying out of the woods with a Rasengan, shoving it into the surprised ninja, sending him flying onto the trees. Woo yeah! The blonde cheered and then saw the royals staring at him. What? We're in the middle of a fight here and you're just standing there chatting away. Well, I'm gonna make myself useful and actually do something. Bye, Naruto said, bounding into the woods towards the battle. Just curious, what did you get yourself into, brother? Takumi asked with a sigh. It turns out that Mokshu is with Nor. I fought with the daimyo briefly before he retreated. He really did a number on me though, Karin said, touching a spot where Koteto hit him. Azama had healed him earlier, but he still felt a hint of pain every now and then. And how did you come across him? Takumi asked, referring to Naruto. Saizo found him while he was out on patrol. He brought him back to my fort where Azama and Sakura healed him. He also seems to have magic I have never seen about before, Karin replied, making Takumi's brow frown what seemed the 5th time that day. Is he Norian? Takumi asked the most obvious question that came to mind and was surprised when Karin shook his head. Not that he claims to be. He says he's from a village hidden in leaves, but that's all he said about where he was from. Karin replied as a man with a ninja came out of the trees about to throw his shuriken, but an arrow from Takumi stopped him in his tracks. I'll talk to him later. For now, let's deal with these guys. And don't worry about me, I'm still a bit woozy, but I can take these chumps anytime. Takumi said with newfound confidence. You know what? We'll talk after this battle. I want to catch up with you. Karin said with a smile, causing Takumi's smile to falter slightly. Yeah Karin, I guess that can be arranged. For now, let's just kill them, Takumi said as he started to walk into the battlefield, firing an arrow at a man who fired a spirit of an ox at him. Brother, Lord Takumi. A set of voices came from 2 sides of him. One side was Hinoka and Sakura and the other side was Hinata and Oboro. Both parties were running towards him. And I just got here as well. he muttered tiredly as he prepared to face both groups. Meanwhile, Naruto was rushing through the battlefield throwing a shuriken at a ninja who was giving Hayato some difficulty. Man, this place must love their ninja. Good thing they don't know what a jutsu is, otherwise that would have made things worse. Naruto thought to himself as he noticed that a majority of the Mokashu forces were ninjas. A voice spoke up from behind Naruto, startling him and making him nearly slam a Rasengan into the poor individual, had he not have jumped in time to avoid the hit. Naruto looked up to see Saizo with an annoyed look on his face. Well, what was visible of it anyway? Well, at least you're hyper. That's for sure, the ninja muttered as Kase jumped down from the trees beside him. A trait not present in most ninja in Hoshido. You are a strange one, Kase said in a neutral tone as he eyed Naruto. Yeah, what do you two want? Naruto asked the duo for their purpose with him. Kase and I are going to cast an attack on the daimyo and I just found that he is holding Kagero captive. We need you to rescue her while we distract the disgrace of a daimyo, Saizo explained. Naruto thought about it for a brief moment. Yeah, I'll come with you. After all, I have nothing better to do other than get the stragglers and that's just boring. Naruto said cheerfully. Good, follow us, Saizo simply said, jumping rapidly away in the trees. Naruto looked at Kase perplexed, who just made a face that said, "You'll get used to that," and jumped after his brother, leaving a perplexed Naruto to leap after him. He briefly saw some familiar faces while he was jumping, like that Setsuna girl lazily firing arrows at another diviner who was in retaliation firing a rat spirit at her. But with Izama by her side healing her, the enemy didn't stand a chance. Naruto then glanced forward and saw Saizo perched on a branch observing something. Naruto looked to see Kotaro standing next to a hole that led underground. He was also protected by a bunch of ninjas who were on guard. Here's the basis. I overheard from the guards that Kagero is down there and that pig of a daimyo wants her for ransom. But we can't get down there without being spotted by the guards. So while I distract him and the others arrive to take out the guards, you're gonna get down that jail and save Kagero, Saizo explained gruffly, glaring at Kotaro the whole time with an evil eye. Waiting for the others is just too boring. I'm gonna get those guys and rescue the girl you're talking about. Naruto bragged. Saizo looked at him in complete and utter disbelief. As hot-headed as you are, I seriously doubt you can take on all those ninjas and survive, Saizo stated bluntly as Naruto cracked a mischievous grin. Oh yeah? Naruto asked, making that hand sign. Shadow clone jutsu. About 5 Naruto clones instantly appeared in puffs of smoke underneath the blonde, making Saizo's eyes widen in surprise. Only Kase kept his cool demeanor as he already knew about Naruto's ability, as he had been spying on him earlier. You were saying? All the clones asked simultaneously as Saizo got his grumpy look back. Never mind, he said a bit angrily at being shown up by this youngster. Just cover me while I deal with that daimyo, Saizo said, jumping towards Kotaro so that he could get a better opening strike. Kase followed him. Naruto sighed and turned to his clones. Well, go out there and get the rest of the guys while I rescue this Kagero he's been talking about all day long, Naruto ordered, and the clones nodded and went straight to work. Needless to say, the surprise attack went pretty one-sided as the clones worked in perfect synchronization with each other to overwhelm the ninjas. The real Naruto jumped ahead to observe Saizo stare down the leader of the ninja country. Oh please, that old fool had the bright idea to boss me around. So I killed him, plain and simple. Kotaro sneered and cackled with glee, much to Saizo's obvious displeasure. How dare you? My father was an honorable man. Far more honorable than you will ever be. Saizo roared back, with white-hot anger in his voice. Ha, that croon couldn't land a single hit on me. He was way past his prime. Kotaro retorted. Naruto decided he had enough of hearing the two argue with each other. He had a mission to do after all. So he flagged over 2 of his shadow clones who were standing around after finishing some spear fighters. What do you need, boss? They asked in unison. I need you to back Mr. Grumpy over there while I go down that hole and get whoever they were talking about, Naruto ordered as he saw Saizo ready to strike at any given minute. Her name is Kagero, you fool. The blonde heard Kase's voice before the green-haired ninja leapt from the shadows and joined his brother. Kotaro put the similarities together in no time flat. Oh look, another one from the Saizo clan. That makes 2 more for the killing. The daimyo laughed, but the confidence he had wavered as Naruto's shadow clones hopped down on either side of Kase and Saizo. "Make that 4, they said with slight arrogance, pulling out some shuriken. The real Naruto took this opportunity to rush down the entrance to the underground prison and nearly tripped on some stairs on the way down because he went too fast. Damn stairs. Nearly broke my neck," he thought, annoyed, before walking at a hefty pace to ensure that he wouldn't trip again. He continued to go down but found that the stairs had ended and he was in a cavern of sorts. "Hello? Is anyone lurking in there?" Naruto called loudly, and he could have sworn he heard something moving, but dismissed it as a mouse. "Hello? Are you from Mokashu? Because you don't sound like one," a female voice replied back in the darkness. "Ha, no way, I'm with these jokers. Some guy called Saizo sent me to rescue you while he and his brother are fighting the leader of this place," Naruto responded, unknowingly shocking the female. "No doubt about it, it's Saizo and Kase," the woman thought. Where exactly are you?" she heard Naruto's voice call out, shaking her from her thoughts. "I'm in a prison cell. I've been here for a whole day," she replied as her stomach growled slightly, much to her embarrassment, and hoped that her savior didn't hear that. "Well, hang tight, I'm gonna get you out," Naruto said, finding the cell door and charging up a big Rasengan. "Rasengan," he shouted and slammed into the cell door. Needless to say, it made short work of it pretty quickly. Naruto stepped back. He heard footsteps come towards him. "Thank you. I couldn't stand being in there for another day," the female said as she approached Naruto. "No problem. You wouldn't happen to be Kagero, would you?" Naruto replied with a smile as he finally registered Kagero's appearance. She appeared to be a few years older than Naruto and wore a red tunic top with a plunging neckline and sandals that exposed her feet. Her other features included a yellow scarf as well as long black hair in a ponytail with a side fringe that covered one of her eyes. "Yes, I am. May I have your name?" Kagero asked back, eyeing Naruto head to toe. "I'm Naruto. I'm a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village." Naruto introduced himself, still feeling a bit peeved that he used the village where he was from, but it wasn't like they could get there anyway. "I see. It's a pleasure to meet you, but I need to see Lord Takumi or Lady Hinoka right away," Kagero said seriously, running towards the stairs and disappearing. Naruto smirked before rushing up after her. When he reached the top, he saw Kotaro's body laying dead on the ground. He wasn't sure if it was Saizo or Kase or his shadow clones who dealt the finishing blow, but that wasn't important now. "Good work, kid," he heard Saizo's voice behind him, but this time he expected him and turned around. "It was nothing, and just out of curiosity, who got that guy?" Naruto asked, and Saizo's eyes smiled with a smug intent. "You're looking at him. I've never felt so satisfied in my entire life," Saizo proclaimed as he clutched his hand tightly. "Yeah, I'm just gonna check in with Karin if you don't mind," Naruto said slowly, running off to find the prince. Saizo just sighed, shaking his head. "Just remember that we have a test to do, kid. And I don't intend on holding back," he reminded before jumping away to find Kagero himself. Naruto heard him, and then it clicked that indeed, he had been challenged by Saizo and Kase. Although the latter was probably forced into it by his brother. The blonde sighed, and any shadow clones in the area were dispelled as he found Karin. "Hey Karin, what's up?" Naruto greeted the prince, who turned with a slight jump. "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just thinking," he said offhandedly, his face in a frown. "So, where are we going now?" Naruto asked to help the prince forget his thoughts. "We're gonna go back to the fort to rest for the day. Besides, Saizo told me he was going to test you, so that's another reason," Karin said with a slight smile. He remembered the ninja demanding that they go back to the fort after the battle so that he could literally drag Naruto and see if he's worthy, as Saizo put it. "Oh, okay. And how's the guy who tried to kill me going?" Naruto asked, as he knew Takumi was alright, but he wanted to make sure. "Takumi's better now. Azura made sure that whatever is controlling him is gone, and Hinata and Oboro are taking him back to the fort on their own," Karin explained. Inside Naruto's head, Kurama stirred yet again. Naruto excused himself from Karin to have a brief chat with his fox friend. "That Azura girl. There's something weird about her that I can't put my finger on," he said to Naruto, making him narrow his eyes. "Well, what am I supposed to do about her?" Naruto asked. "Try to ask her later. After you're done with your second graduation test," Kurama said with a snort as Naruto ended the link and was hit with nostalgia from his past until he reached the fort. He then marched towards the mess hall and grabbed some leftover meat. He went to the training grounds where he could feel that he was being watched as soon as he entered. He suddenly heard the sound of a shuriken heading in his direction. "Whoa," Naruto said in surprise, sidestepping the projectile as he looked around for the thrower. It came in the form of Saizo, who instantly appeared in front of him. "Good, you showed up," he said bluntly, keeping his eyes on the blonde at all times. "It's not like I had a choice. If I didn't, you'd just drag my butt over here." Naruto snapped at the ninja, who coughed slightly, trying to hide a snort of laughter. "Believe me, kid, I do not appreciate people who are late for things," Saizo said, and Naruto thought that this guy could seriously teach Kakashi something. He was brought out of his thoughts when he felt a presence behind him. He whirled around to see Kase standing there. "Greetings, Naruto. I've been observing you and your magic, and would like to see what you're capable of," Kase said with a slight smile, as Naruto appeared shocked for a second. "Okay, how do you know about my jutsus?" "Sure, Mr. Grumpy there saw me, but you weren't around at all back there," Naruto said, slightly confused, completely missing Saizo's glare at being called that nickname. "Really now? You detected my presence just then, but you couldn't even sense me up in the trees in Mokoshu?" "Maybe Saizo is right about you in some points," Kase said with a chuckle, as a look of irritation grew on Naruto's face. "Oh come on, don't tell me you're with him as well," Naruto complained, causing the green-haired ninja to sigh slightly. Thankfully, he didn't need to speak for himself this time. "Whoever Kase sides with is completely irrelevant right now," another new voice, which sounded familiar, said. Naruto looked over his shoulder to find Kagero standing next to Saizo. "Hey, it's you. Do you two know each other or something?" Naruto asked a bit nervously. "Saizo and I are the retainers for Lord Ryoma, the High Prince of Hoshido. We are sworn to stick by his side until the very end," Kagero explained. Naruto remembered Saizo mentioning someone called Ryoma when they first met. But enough with this blather. "It's time to accomplish what we're here for," Saizo said sternly, pulling out some shuriken. "As you might know, boy, me and my fellow retainer and brother are here to see if you're actually the decent ninja that you claim to be. I saw you perform that magic back there and I would like to find out what their properties are." "Any questions?" "Yeah, what are the rules?" Naruto asked, causing Saizo to sharply narrow his remaining working eye. "Fight with your full potential and don't hold back. Just no killing. This isn't a major fight, so hand-to-hand combat is allowed. And you pass when I say you pass, boy. Let's start," he shouted, and without warning, he rushed up to Naruto and swung his weapons in his face. Naruto, however, dodged the attacks swiftly as they continued to come his way. "Damn, this guy's ruthless," Naruto thought as he tried to do a hand sign, but Saizo's speedy attacks prevented him from having enough time to do so. He then heard the sound of something fast heading his way and barely rolled away to avoid being hit by a shuriken, courtesy of Kase. But this left him open to a strike from Kagero, which caused him to stagger abruptly, giving Saizo the chance to throw an uppercut with his left hand, which sent Naruto flying. As Naruto got up, he realized something annoying. "Damn it. These guys have better teamwork than me and Sasuke when we first did our graduation test." Naruto thought the sad truth. Unless he used his jutsus, there was no way he was going to win. He got up and did the hand seal for one of his trademark jutsus. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," he cried, and two exact replicas appeared beside the real Naruto. Only Kagero's eyes widened slightly as Saizo's narrowed again. Kase retained his neutral expression. "Okay, now we can fight," he exclaimed, turning to his clones. "Take care of one each," he ordered, and rushed towards Saizo and began throwing punches at the opposing ninja, who blocked them and threw punches of his own. Naruto ducked and aimed a kick at Saizo, who caught the incoming leg and nimbly threw it away, causing Naruto to stagger off balance slightly. But he quickly regained it just in time to avoid a hook from Saizo, which Naruto returned, but only for it to be blocked. "Impressive," Saizo suddenly said, confusing Naruto in his tracks, which gave the ninja enough time to land a blow in his face, sending the blonde sprawling on the ground, grunting in pain. "Your close fighting skills are actually decent. Maybe I was wrong about you in some aspects, but there's one way to find out," Saizo said as he jumped powerfully, brandishing a shuriken to impale Naruto. But that was dodged by the blonde, who stumbled to his feet and jumped back to distance himself so he could think of a move. But Saizo didn't allow that one bit. He rushed at Naruto with surprising speed and threw punches which Naruto dodged. But a sudden kick to the chest completely caught Naruto off guard and he wheezed for breath before Saizo suddenly stopped, with an eyebrow raised. "Are you worried that your jutsus, as you refer to them, might be too much for me?" he asked curiously. "You saw me back there, I could surround you with clones and be done with it." Naruto snapped in between breaths and Saizo chuckled lightly. "I've been the worst boy," he said, and his scarred eye opened slightly before closing again. "And besides, I'm rather curious as to what they can actually do," he stated, and Naruto grinned a fox-like grin. "You should have he begun and stopped mid-sentence as he was assaulted by memories of one of his clones fighting against Kase and Kagero, but failing due to the combined efforts of the two. He felt the two ninja on either side of him. The ninjas stared on with an impassive look on their faces. An effective stalling technique, but it shall take more than just distractions to take us down, Kase said confidently with Kagero nodding. "I know. And that's where the fun begins," Naruto shouted, creating two more clones and charging up a Rasengan. "Shadow Clone Rasengan," he yelled, and the clones rushed towards their targets and leapt with a ball of chakra the size of their hands. This time, however, the real Naruto went after Kase, thinking that he might have an easier time with him as he sent his clones to deal with Saizo and Kagero. He was proven wrong. Kase leapt into the air just as the attack was about to hit, sending Naruto crash landing on the ground again. "Great, this guy's as fast as bushy brows." Naruto mentally groaned as he threw shuriken at Kase and took the ninja's efforts to dodge as a chance to get back on his feet and think about his next move. This wasn't enough time as Kase rushed at him with blinding speed and threw a series of punches that Naruto barely blocked. He was so fast that Naruto didn't get an opening to even throw a counter-attack as he blocked punch after punch. "Hey brat, you want some of my chakra?" Kurama popped in all of a sudden, surprising Naruto, which gave Kase a chance to land a punch to the blonde that sent him skidding back. "Geez Kurama, you couldn't have picked a better time to talk to me, couldn't you?" Naruto yelled in his mind as the fox chuckled lightly. "And anyway, no, I don't want your chakra just yet. I'll show it to them when the time comes," Naruto said seriously. "Got it. Just let me know when you want some and I'll give it to you," Kurama said again before going back to sleep. It seems that when he's not talking to Naruto or helping him, he's busy sleeping and he wakes up whenever he pleases. "Are you alright?" Kase's voice bringing Naruto out of his little chat. He was suddenly assaulted by the clone he sent to Saizo and Kagero, falling, and that both were on either side of Kase. "Huh? Oh, I'm fine. I was just thinking about something. That's all," Naruto replied with a big grin, putting his arms behind his back. "Right," Kase said simply and decided to leave it. So did Kagero, although Saizo was sure to remember that in the future. Enough talk, he snapped and threw shuriken at Naruto, which he dodged. But Kase seized the chance and started throwing speedier punches, which again, Naruto had trouble dodging. As if it couldn't get any worse for him, Kagero appeared behind him and grabbed him in a headlock. "It's going to take much more than that to take all three of us down," she stated simply, strengthening her vice-like grip on the boy as he withered in pain. "Arg, if I'm gonna get out of her hold, I'm gonna have to use that jutsu," he thought in agony as he readied the seal for one of his first jutsus. "Hey," he said, catching her attention. "If I want to win, I'm going to have to do this. And believe me, I've been wanting to get somebody with this when I first got here," he shouted as Saizo and Kase got ready to rush at him in case he did anything. "What are you talking about?" Kagero started again, but Naruto cut her off. "Hey cutie, what do you think of this?" the disguised Naruto asked with a triumphant smirk when he saw Kagero's red face. Kagero said nothing, she just stared mesmerized at the sight, her face as red as the world's reddest tomato. Saizo and Kase just stared dumbfounded, the latter's jaw slightly open. "What?" Saizo just said simply, wordlessly at the display in front of him. He had seen many stupid things in his lifetime, like that one time where Kase turned his room upside down looking for his favorite pillow when he was younger, but this took the cake by far. From the looks of things, Kase agreed with him as he just stared with wide eyes. Poof! He was startled out of his thoughts when Naruto punched Kagero, sending her flying. And before he knew it, Naruto was rushing up to him with a Rasengan and shoved it in his stomach, sending him flying across the field. As he felt the ground rush underneath him, he couldn't help but feel slightly impressed at his strategy to stun and deliver a tough blow. But that was when he wasn't being an idiot and not on the battlefield. Hey, maybe I was wrong about him. Although he is rather stupid, Saizo said, unsteadily getting up and doubling over. He looked up to see Naruto fighting with Kase and actually going all out for once. I wonder if this will work? There's only one way to find out. Naruto thought as he swung a hook at Kase with one hand while throwing a shuriken, hitting his shoulder which sent him off balance. This allowed Naruto to land an uppercut on the man, making him crash to the ground from the impact. Oh yeah, who's the man? Naruto called out arrogantly as he saw Saizo approaching, limping and clutching his stomach. That's enough, Saizo grunted, loud enough for Naruto to hear him. Huh? Did I pass? Naruto cautiously asked the man, who frowned. Yes, you've proven that you can handle yourself and have some sense of strategy. But your attitude is going to get you killed. Believe me, Saizo explained. Naruto grimaced slightly. Okay, I'm an idiot. Am I on your good side now? The blonde asked the grumpy ninja. Fine, he said, and Naruto brightened up. But that doesn't mean I will get buddy-buddy with you. I have my orders and I will carry them out, Saizo explained as Naruto frowned again. And what are your orders? He asked curiously. To ensure that Lord Karin stays safe until we find Lord Ryoma. That is all I have to say to you for now. Farewell, Naruto, Saizo said, lightening up a bit before vanishing on the spot. The blonde smiled a bit knowing that he made an acquaintance and possible friend in Saizo. Impressive, Kase's voice startled him from behind yet again as he whirled around to face the ninja. Will you stop sneaking up me? It's really starting to get on my nerves, buddy. Naruto shouted angrily at Kase. Kase smiled. My apologies, he said, raising his hands. Anyway, hardly anybody can actually befriend Saizo. I'm almost jealous of you, he said with a chuckle. Wait, you're his brother, doesn't that make you good to him as well? Naruto asked the ninja. We are. I am one of the few people he trusts along with Lord Ryoma and Kagero, Kase said. Naruto remembered the other ninja. Oh yeah, how is she doing by the way? Naruto asked, making Kase look over his shoulder where Kagero was watching the conversation with a dazed look on her face. She's fine. She's just under a bit of shock from earlier. I must say though, I didn't know that you could transform. Even if it is really irresponsible. He muttered that last part under his breath and he watched closely as Naruto grew a gigantic grin. I see. You use that dreaded transformation of yours to seduce and distract the enemy, allowing you to strike. I have to admit, that is very clever, if not rather immature of you, Kase said with a slight smile. Naruto soaked up the praise like a sponge. In any case, I must be off now. I have duties to perform and it would be improper of me if I were to be late. Farewell Naruto, he said, vanishing on the spot like Saizo did. Naruto then saw Kagero and walked over to her. She turned to look at him when he got close. Hey, are you okay? He asked her, causing her to look at him with a weak smile. I'm fine. It'll take much more than that to take me down. In any case, I must say that despite your brashness and that skill of yours, Kagero visibly shuddered. Her blush had faded away, but it was still slightly visible. I'd say you're actually a rather gifted ninja, whatever Saizo says. Good work Naruto. I'd love to stay and talk to you, but I have duties to attend to as well. We'll meet again soon, she said happily before vanishing away as well. It was at that moment that Naruto realized that it was already sunset. Phew, what a day. Time to eat. Naruto sighed as he strolled to the mess hall where various members of the army were gathering to have their refreshments. The meal was tofu made by Hana. Naruto took his share and sat across from Takumi, who was looking solemnly at his meal. You're not Norian, are you? He demanded, looking up with a slight glare. Naruto shook his head quickly. Good, his glare vanished and he returned to looking at his meal with a lost look on his face. What, are you still moping after what happened back there? The blonde asked the prince, who slowly nodded with an unreadable expression on his face. Why wouldn't I? I mean, I just attacked my brother and sisters and could have killed them. What kind of brother am I? Takumi bitterly questioned himself. Naruto could have sworn he saw a tear at the archer's left eye, but decided to ignore it. Hey buddy, I want to break this to you. You weren't yourself back then. What that Azura lady did back there made you feel better and now you're here with us. If anything, you should just move on and forget about it, Naruto consoled the archer, making him look up from his meal. Oh yeah? Have you ever attacked someone without meaning to do it? Takumi challenged back. This caused a very unpleasant memory to resurface in Naruto. Yes, I did actually, he said quietly looking at Takumi, whose eyes widened. I was going after someone. He mocked me and I just lost it. My teammate tried to stop me, I ended up hurting her. So yeah, you could say that we're related in a way, Naruto mused slightly with a very slight smile. Oh, sorry, Takumi said meekly, not really knowing what to say. Hey, don't worry about man. What's done is done. Just move on, Naruto offered some comfort to the archer. I'm never gonna be able to live this one down, Takumi said simply. But thanks anyway, he thanked with a small grin on his face. No problem, Naruto replied with an friendly expression of his own and dug into his meal. They ate in silence for a while until Takumi's retainers arrived. It's good to have you back, Lord Takumi. I honestly thought you were lost back there, Hinata declared, sitting on the left of Naruto with a look of happiness. I know, now that you're here, those Norian scum don't stand a chance. Takumi's other retainer Oboro sat down on the right of Naruto with a grin as big as Hinata's. Hey, thanks you too, what would I ever do without you? Takumi said with a laugh and a smile. He turned to Naruto. Your name was Naruto, right? He asked and the blonde nodded. I don't believe I properly introduced myself. I'm Prince Takumi of Hoshido, he extended his hand across the table. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. It's good to meet you too. Naruto responded, shaking the prince's hand. And these two are my retainers, Hinata and Oboro. He gestured to the duo who looked interestedly at Naruto. Yeah, I met you guys back at that weird guy's house when you were looking for him, Naruto stated, refereeing to Takumi. Hinata laughed. Yeah, that Archduke was not what I was expecting at all. I thought he was going to be some serious leader, not some relaxed dude. Hinata bellowed, laughing. Anyway, I'm Hinata. I'm Lord Takumi's top retainer, he said, patting Naruto heartily on the back and sending him reeling. He quickly recovered from the friendly gesture. I actually had a friend called Hinata. But it's been a while since I saw her though, but I know she's doing fine. Oh really? That's awesome. Hopefully we can be good mates from now, Hinata said with the same silly grin that reminded Naruto of Kiba. Heck, his whole personality matched Kiba's. He then turned to Oboro, who smiled softly. I'm Oboro, Lord Takumi's other retainer. It's good to meet you too, Oboro said calmly, bowing her head before returning to her meal. And just a fair warning, she hates Nor with a burning passion. So don't be surprised when she gets angry whenever she's fighting one, Takumi said as Oboro's hand clenched her fork tightly, making her knuckles go as white as Karin's hair. I'll be sure to keep that in mind, Naruto said, quickly digging into his own meal as he felt that conversation time was over. The rest of dinner continued in a pleasant silence for the ninja and the prince as well as his retainers. When dinner ended, Naruto walked straight to his quarters to get some well-deserved rest when he saw Kagero approaching the same room. Oh, what are you doing here? Naruto asked pleasantly. I was assigned to share this cabin with you while we fight in this war. If you do not like it, then I'm afraid you will have to take it up with Lord Karin, Kagero said, briskly opening the door and entering. No, I'm fine with it. It's just I didn't know who it was, that's all, Naruto said, walking in. He saw Kagero kicking her sandals off and getting into one of the spare beds next to Naruto. Bed already? He asked, bewildered. We're in a war, Naruto. Like I said, you shall have to get used to it, Kagero simply said as the blonde sighed. Yeah, I know. It's just that it seems I can never get a break once in my life, Naruto ranted as he too climbed into one of the beds. Oh, how so? Kagero asked, intrigued. Well, after I saved my village from being destroyed, I get called to some important meeting. And then I get sent away to some island in the middle of nowhere, and then when I get forced out and hunted down by some jerk in a mask. Naruto reminisced, remembering the battle with Pain, the Cage Summit, Turtle Island, and of course, Obito, or Toby as he called himself back then, hunting Naruto down with the previous Jinchuriki brought back from the dead. I see. Your life must not be an easy one, Kagero stated simply. Naruto let out a short exclamation. You have no idea, but if it means saving people, I'm all up for it, Naruto declared proudly, putting his hand on his chest. That's very admirable of you, Kagero said, a small smile on her face. The blonde ninja may be a knucklehead, but at least he had good intentions. Naruto said nothing. Naruto? Kagero looked at the blonde to find him fast asleep. Hey, He's an interesting one, she muttered before going to sleep to prepare for the big day tomorrow. Naruto. Kagero shouted right in Naruto's ear, causing him to jolt wide awake. Wah, what's going on? Are we under attack? Let me at him. Naruto shouted, in his shock putting his hands in a very sloppy defensive stance. Sorry, but you weren't waking up, so I had to yell in your ear. I trust you can forgive me? Kagero asked sheepishly. Yeah, it's fine. I've always been a heavy sleeper, so I can't help it, Naruto groaned tiredly, stretching his neck. In any case, after breakfast we're going to Serkensha by boat. In case you're wondering, Serkensha is another neutral kingdom like Izumo. People from Hoshido and Nor go there in order to have a vacation or to get away from the war. Kagero explained the day's plan to Naruto, who listened intently. So we might get a chance to relax? I really need to catch my breath after fighting 2 days in a row, he asked, referring to what Kagero said about people going to Serkensha for vacations. I seriously doubt it. We are in a war, Naruto. It is not the time for long-term leisure relaxation. In the chance of Nor sending a brigade of troops to invade Hoshido, Kagero said, sighing a little. Ah, Naruto groaned, leaving the quarters and heading towards the mess hall where he and the rest of the army had breakfast. After an uneventful meal, they left the fort and walked into a small port town. They headed directly to the port where there was a special boat reserved for them. They set sail for Serkensha and everyone went off to do their own thing. But by the time they had boarded, the sun had set and everyone was relaxing while they can. Naruto was leaning relaxed against a wall, observing the glittering ocean. Hey Fox, how's it going? Naruto greeted pleasantly, as Kurama stirred in his cage, lazily opening one eye. I feel rather tired because you just woke me up from a very good nap, brat, the Nine-Tails grumbled, making Naruto's sweat drop at the comment. Now that you mention it, you're always napping off these days. Is something up? Naruto asked as he kept in mind that in the past 2 days, the fox would just pop in every now and then at random and always seemed to sleep. So now you ask out of all times, Naruto rolled his eyes. Basically, I'm still exhausted from being released from that damn statue. So I'm resting to regain some of my strength back. Kurama explained. Naruto sighed, knowing that he would say something like that. Hey, you haven't changed a bit, Naruto chuckled softly. The blonde could have sworn the fox grumbled for a second. Yeah, the same can be said for you, brat, Kurama replied, rolling his eyes. Naruto sighed just as the boat shuddered and came to a standstill. Oh, that can't be good, the blonde muttered as rain started to pour. He also felt the waves crashing into the side of the boat. Expect these waves were massive, as Naruto deduced from the way they slammed with such impact. He then saw a human-shaped figure jump from the water and land in front of him. The person appeared to take the form of a young woman, wielding a naginata while riding a horse with wings. Expect that aside from the purple outline and smoke around her figure, she couldn't be properly seen. Hey why do you look like a ghost? Naruto asked, tilting his head. His response was the invisible Sky Knight charging at him only for him to dodge. Okay, sorry for making fun of you, but there was no need to attack me. The blonde scolded as the soldier turned around and charged at him again. Only this time, Naruto was ready as he charged up a Rasengan. Rasengan! He shouted, and the ball of chakra collided with the knight's lance, causing a massive explosion which sent Naruto skidding back, while the Sky Knight faded away in purple smoke. The blonde looked confused before Kurama decided to speak. Interesting, that soldier was walking, yet she had no life force in her. It was as if she was revived by some sort of reanimation jutsu, Kurama commented, causing Naruto's eyebrows to narrow. You think such a thing's real? 'Cause if so, then I won't get a break, Naruto mused, and the fox chuckled a bit. Well, considering that there's a whole bunch of them coming towards us, I'd say yes there is, the Nine-Tails said, making Naruto run over to the nearby railing, not caring how wet he got, and squinted towards the horizon. He could faintly make out the figures of more soldiers on winged horses and draconic-like creatures flying towards the ship with the clear intent to invade. Everyone get ready, we've got a fight on our hands. Naruto heard Karin's shout as he heard steel clashing and battle cries. Naruto prepared himself for the battle that was underway. Yeah, as if that wasn't enough, Naruto mumbled as the first invisible soldier flew towards him, axe in hand. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.